Hey all, Mine's Gamer here again. And so you see, I still have my scenario 2 set up, sitting here, waiting to play again. But first, I gotta say, I gotta do a little intermission break here where I talk a little bit about the characters I'm using, new rule that was brought to my attention, and is it practical to play solo with only 2 characters? Let me tell you, here's my current guess, my current feeling about 2-player solo. It don't work. Okay, let me rephrase that. It does not work with the Blink Blade and the Banner Spear as your characters. And I'm going to review them a little bit right now. I'm going to go over a little bit why I believe this. Also, and why I think 2-player solo so far does not feel very possible to get through. And maybe with the right guys, the fast-moving guys with lots of mobility and potential to get a lot of other characters on the board, you might be able to do it. And I don't know the other characters yet. I haven't played with any of the other ones. But right now, Adrian and Royce are my 2 characters. One of them is a Banner Spear. That would be Adrian. And Royce, who's a Blink Blade. Now, Blink Blades, you could see this is our character card right on here. And to kind of focus a little bit, you have 8 hit points to start. Now I'm just going to go right into the basics of these guys. Okay, so the Blink Blade has 8 health points. And right off the bat, that's problematic for only a 2-player game. All right, so his primary abilities and skills are, move quick, get in there, hit the guy, get away. Even you've got some good combinations, good possibilities of hit and move. But he is a glass jaw. On at least 2 occasions, he's been KO'd in 1 shot. Perfect health to 0 in 1 shot. Some of these guys, even when you're only playing with a 2-player count, there's not a ton of monsters on the board. You've got the issue of these guys can do base of 3 to 4 damage. These are just the level 1 Elgox guys, okay? But they have cards in their deck that allow them to do like power shot or heavy hit or whatever, something like that. And it adds 1 or 2 more damage to their hit. So if they base through 3, they're doing an extra 2. That's 5. Then they have to roll the modification deck. The modification deck adds, it's oftentimes 0s and -1s, which is good. They're going to a lot of times not get any bonuses and even sometimes reduce the damage. But consider a 5 damage hit at -1 is still 4. That's half your health. And so that means if you get hit with that right out the gate, just a basic -1 hit against your guy, that's 4 health. That's half his health. You're already working with a detriment, and you haven't even started this scenario yet. I mean, you may have gotten in maybe a punch before the guy clobbered you. If by some chance these guys get the ×2, he's dead. He can't take a ×2 hit, period. Whack, not going to happen, especially off of a heavy hit. And heavy hits are one of the cards. So if any one of those combinations, the Blink Blade is a glass jaw. He has to try to get away, and he has to be and getting away isn't just an issue of stepping away. An archer can hit you from, 3, 4, 5, depending on what their range is at that moment. And you can't really escape. So really what you're doing as a Blink Blade is you need to get far enough away that you can hide behind your tank. And that, in my case, is what Adrian's for. Adrian is my Banner Spear. He's got 10 health points. He's got a couple of things that can defense. He's got a potential to summon some guys that could potentially be, cannon fodder. People to hide behind. He can be one-shotted too. If Adrian was to get one-shotted, which he's gotten near to it, I had a guy get a heavy hit and a ×2. Bam, 10 damage. Done and done. That's it. And you say, oh, wow, that's just bad luck. Well, yeah. But how many scenarios before that bad luck gets you? Remember, you have to be level 3 before Royce, before your Blink Blade, even breaks 10 hit points. And remember, by the time you're level 3, the scenarios have gotten tougher. So now your monsters are bigger and they're hitting harder too. So the odds are Royce is going to continually be in range of a one-shot kill. Now, I assume at level 2 and at level 3 he's going to start getting more cards, more ways to dodge, more ways to avoid. So yeah, like any level 1 character, you've got a chance to get better and more resilient, more capable of avoiding those big hits. But that brings me to the biggest problem of the game. Economy of actions. You've got 2 guys. They each get 10 cards. Now I'm talking about with a 2-player game, which to me, I don't see anybody getting through this game ever anyway, no how, no way, with 1 character. Sorry, there's just not enough moves, and I'll tell you why in a minute. You cannot get through an entire scenario where you even just have to move and by yourself, much less stop and fight things and not die while you're doing it. So you have to have at least 2 characters. And I think it even says 2 characters is kind of the minimum. But I think even 2 characters is pretty much impossible. 3 might be doable because you have a little bit more economy of actions. You have more actions per round. So with 2 characters, both with 10 cards, and I don't know, some of these guys I think may get more cards. I hope nobody has less. That would be really bad. Okay, so every action, every turn takes 2 cards, both of which, at minimum, get discarded at the end. Okay, so none of them go back into your hand, so nothing recycles right away. Some cards are one-time use, or some card abilities make the card one-time use, which means you do it, and the card is out for the scenario. You can't use it again. Okay, so with 10 cards, each one taking 2 cards, each action taking two cards, or each turn taking 2 cards, that means you only have 4 turns per recycle. And that means you're going to lose a card at every rest. Whether that be a long rest or a short rest, you're going to lose a card. Sometimes it's random. Sometimes it's a full... Sometimes you get a pick, but it's one of your discarded cards, and it's either a random one or a picked one, depending on what kind of rest you do. But that's 4 actions. And at the end of those 4 actions, you're going to have to recycle. You cannot take the 5th action. You have 10 cards. You cannot take a 5th action. You can only... because if you run out of cards, you are exhausted. It means you're out of the scenario. You might as well be dead. Knocked unconscious, whatever. You just get so tired, you collapse on the ground and hope your teammates can finish the job. So you can't run out of cards, so you only get 4 turns per 10 cards. At the end of those 4 turns, and that's assuming you take all 4, hopefully you will, but if you get pummeled for some reason, you need to heal or you need to do something, you need to take a long rest, you might do it sooner. Hopefully that's not the case. But hopefully you can get through your full 4 actions. And then you have to choose, if you do a rest, one of those discarded cards to get rid of. If you do a short rest, now this is one of the things that I was doing wrong, and this makes it even harder. Doing it my way, you give up a health, and you don't have to discard one. You don't have to get rid of the card. Which to me worked out pretty good. I thought with a short rest, that was fair. I mean, it's a little bit of a risk. You don't get all your cards back. You don't get a heal. But, you're taking that penalty of a health hit. But, sadly to say, I did that wrong. That is not how that works. You cannot avoid getting rid of a card, a random card. All the health, the option to take a 1 damage is just so that you could pick a different random card. So you're like, oh, I don't want to lose that one. So I guess you put that one aside, and a random card is taken from the remaining cards. If there was only 2, the other card gets... So basically, you will lose one no matter what. So what this means is after 4 actions, assuming none of your cards... Now look, I'm going to show you here. Okay. This card, if I do a summon with this guy, this is the Banner Spear. If he does a summon using this ability, this down here, this little X on the card says this is a lost card. Once you've done this, you can't do it again. This card is gone. You're never using it for anything else again until the next scenario. So at the end of this guy's lifespan, this card gets lost. It goes away. So if you do that just once in the first 4 cards, now you've only got 4 actions, or 3 actions instead of 4. Okay, because this is going to go away, and I'm sorry, you'll still get your 4 actions to start, but on the next round, you will have lost this card along with one of your random cards that got discarded. So that takes away 2 cards before you even get to your first rest. Now that means you've gone from 4 actions to 3 actions, and this is the very first round, very first time through. So 4 actions, maybe killed a guy, possibly 2 if things are going well with you and your partner. But it's like, say for example, I just did scenario 2 and I lost. Okay, but the first area had three guys in it, and so we kind of dispatched them fairly decent. But I was playing the game wrong. I was getting the rest and giving up a health and trying to navigate my health so I didn't get too low and not let Royce get killed. And then we walked into the next room, and there were 3 more guys, 2 archers, one of which is elite, and a scout that sits up there. And you have to protect a character monster, which I'll tell you is a whole nother problem. I'll tell you that in a minute. But here's the deal. You get rid of these cards. So now after just 3, you're down to 3 actions. And if you do multiples, now your banner spears have your banner spear. In fact, both of these guys, both Blinkblade and Banner Spear, have cards that have these little X's. So just using that card, that section of the card, loses the card for the rest of the scenario. So if you do that more than, let's say you do that twice throughout the scenario, you've done that twice. You're down to 3 actions, which, by the way, you're getting rid of cards each time you rest. So now when you go from 4, you could potentially go from 4 to 2 actions in 1 round. 1 round. One multiple sets of actions. So, let me see. Hold on a second. Yeah, sorry. Okay, so you could easily go down just 2 or 3 actions in no time. And once you're at 2 actions means you still have 6 cards left, right? Because you go 1, 2, recycle, because you can never use your last 2 cards. You have to keep at least 2 or you're exhausted and that guy's not in there. And with only 2 characters, exhausting's not an option. Unless maybe you're down to that last guy and you just need that kill. If you're exhausted, you still get whatever you collected along the way. And you just say, okay, fine, we're gonna hit him with all I got. I'm taking him out. All right, Royce. Adrian says, all right, Royce, I'm going to take this guy out. Good luck. He takes his turn. Whack. Hopefully he does his job, or at least enough damage that Royce can finish him off and end the round. End the scenario. But it's not something you want to do if you can help it. Okay, so being exhausted sucks. You certainly don't want it to happen early in the game, and it can. So Royce is not only a glass jaw, you got this problem of going down, running out of cards. So economy of scale says, assume every guy takes 2 hits. I don't think I mean, it's possible. No, that's not say. You'll probably get 1 guy in a single attack. But more likely than not, it's going to take 2 hits. Okay, just to take a guy out, you have to get next to him. The Banner Spear is terrible at level 1 for movement. He can't move or squat. Look, I'm going to show you some of his cards. Basically, every card, or at least so far that I've seen, every card has a base movement, a generic, what do you call it? Don't use the abilities feature of each half of the card. The top one is 2 attack damage, and the bottom one is 2 movement. The Banner Spear, if you take all his cards and put them in play, these are the 10 I have. Okay, so I lost this scenario, so it really doesn't matter. But he's got a 1. Well, first of all, only his generics are moves. Generic 2, generic 2, generic 2, generic 2. A movement of 4. That's his best movement card of all his cards. He can do 4. And he does not have the Banner Spear, or she, or in my case. He's got this card, which is a 1 movement, with a little bit of extra range that could push a guy, and 1 movement to pick up stuff. So that's a good card to help you pick things up if you want to pick loot up, because it's a one-time use though, right? So I mean, you use it, you can use it again, but again, you're running out of cards every time you go through your cards. The odds are this is not one you're going to want to keep during battle. So this card doesn't get used until you're trying to pick stuff up. And you're only going to be able to use it once, and that's if you can center yourself on a couple of loot pieces and maybe get 2 at once, because it gives you that extra range of 1. But otherwise, again, base 2, and then there's this one. This is 3 movement for your allies. It's not you. You don't get it. It's up to 2 allies within a range of 3 get 3 movement, which is great. Give Royce or whoever some kind of extra movement. But you, as the banner spear, who is supposed to be your tank in the case of Adrian and Royce, I mean, the one who could take some damage, he can't even get into battle half the time. He's constantly bringing up the rear. That makes it impossible, or near impossible, for Royce to utilize his position to try to share damage with Adrian. And Adrian just has no movement. He's got 1 card in all of these that does any extra movement. Otherwise, it's just your base action. So you have to. So basically, you lose out on your base action, your bottom half movement, just to move in. And 2 is terrible. He has no way to double move. None of his cards give him movement on the top half, so he can never double move. It's not even in his thing. So if he's far away from battle, it's like, say for example, he decides to summon somebody. Basically, to summon, he might move 2, summon a guy. That's his turn. He move 2, summon a guy. But you can't do that. That's right. You can't summon a guy and move, because his summons are part of his movement piece. So like, you see like one of his summons. Here's a summon Torchbearer. But see, it's on the bottom half of the card, which means if you summon this guy, Adrian doesn't move, because none of your top cards can move, and you can never use 2 bottom cards, bottom halves. So what ultimately happens here is you summon this guy, and Adrian just sits where he's at. So if you want to bring a guy in early, bring in a summon to help you out, Adrian's already going to start off behind. He's going to be sitting in the back. So you try to set him up as front as possible. You know, normally a summon is something you want to bring into battle right away. Get them in there. Kind of make them cannon fodder, another target for the bad guys. Give yourself a chance to, you know, take some hits. But if you do that with Adrian, you're going to be behind the 8 ball right out the gate. Especially if you want your Royce, who's a pretty good hitter, pretty good mover, to be able to get in there, hit something, and not get killed immediately. And so you got to really strategize, which means you either have to slow play Royce, which means keeping the Blink Blade back, not letting him get into battle in the first place. So maybe he does some preparatory stuff. You can do that once or twice, but remember, a lot of the preparatory stuff with your Blink Blade is lost cards. Like, for example, one of the best prep ones that he has, I say lost cards because if you do it, the card is gone. But you need it. So like, for example, Overdrive. This card right here, it'll give you a shield while you're moving slow, or give you jump when you're moving fast, which are 2 very useful, very helpful things for moving around and also, you know, staying alive. You're reducing the damage. So you want to kind of get this going as quick as possible, so that you're less susceptible, a little bit more resilient to your enemies. And it's in play. It stays in play, so it's there the whole scenario. You know, assuming you don't die. But it is a lost card. It's the X here, which means it's going to be gone. So if you do that, odds are you're reducing your actions down to even further. So you've got 2 guys, 3 months, 3 bad guys to start. You fight them. That's probably 2 hits each, and that's if things are going well, because rest assured, your big hit, you probably don't have that card every action. So even if you can pummel one dude, you're probably short on cards at that point. And the next guy might take 3 hits to take him out. So, I mean, yes, there's a couple things you can do to try to give yourself chances, but again, those cards kind of come and go, and they go away. Because most of your cards you aren't going to get to keep using, the really good ones. So this is another one that's really good for Royce. This is a Drive Recharge. Drive Recharge is another, it's lost once you use it. So this is another setup card though, because it gives you +2, gives you ward for a turn, and also gives you, I forgot what that's called. Bless. Puts Bless in your deck, which basically is a ×2. It's in there. That's better to come up. It's another chance at a ×2 to do extra damage. So those are kind of things you want to get going kind of quick, right? So you take less damage from these guys. But even if you wait, whatever, the card is gone. So if you do both those cards, you reduced your action by an extra 1. So now you're going from, if you were at the beginning of the game and you used both of them, you went from 5 to 4. Or from 4 actions to 3 actions before you even get to the next things, because you will have lost 3 cards. And once you're at 3 cards, that puts you at 7, which means you can only do 3 actions, because you can never go out of cards without exhausting. You never want to exhaust. Okay, so those are very good for Royce, but 2 things that really help Royce are also these 2, okay? So Royce has 2 of these cards that last for 5 and 6 actions or turns, attacks, whatever, and they're awesome. They're great. But guess what? They're lost cards. You play them, you don't have them anymore, except that they will stay in play. So they stay out there doing their thing for 5 or 6 actions. You'll earn some good experience for using them. But when they get used up, into the lost pile they go. You can't get them back. So if you play both Borrowed Time and Hit and Run for these really good abilities, this top one and the bottom one, which are really doing a lot for you. One of them gives you, basically, that's where you get your hit and run. You run in, hit, and then you get to move 3 spaces away. Good opportunity to go hide, get out of range, do whatever, do something that's going to help you. That's a great ability, and it really does help Royce a lot staying alive, and especially when he's fighting melee guys, or maybe he does get out of range of the archers, or maybe he's able to run and hide behind Royce or something, hide behind a corner, who knows, but it helps a lot. This guy here, this makes all his slows, the worst part of slow, it eliminates it. It takes it away. All those little negatives and when he's moving slow get ignored for those whole 6 actions. And when he's additionally, he gets to pin guys down. He can on your next 6 actions, while slow, ignore the slow effects and perform a pin at a range of 3 at the end of the action. So every action you get a pin, like the archers, like you can pin them down so they can't hit you. And if you've got this running, you pin the guy down and then you move away 3. They can't even move into range to hit you. So this combination is very nice. But again, 2 more cards out. So let's say you do the 2 prep and these 2. It's 2 actions of your original 4 out of the game. You will never be able to move those actions. Hey, Martin Burnt Johannesson. No, what I read is when you run out of cards, you are exhausted. If you run out of cards, so see, I saw that somewhere. That's where I was curious. I got this battle goal, and I could not find it in the rules. So here's a couple things. Thank you, Alexander. Are you on around 2,000 of this game yet? What do you mean, Savinicus? Are you on around 2,000 of this game yet? I'm on round 2, if that's what you mean. Around 2,000 of this game yet? Yeah, no. There's only 139 scenarios, by the way. And you're probably only going to do 70 or 80 if I get all the way through this. But I'm on round 2. Let's take a few zeros off of that. I did die. So a couple of clarifications, it sounds like, according to both Alexander and Martin. Thank you, guys. So you can't. I already learned the bit about not being able to negate a round with your negative health. All negative healthing does is give you a chance to choose a different random, not choose randomly lose a different card instead of the one that you say, oh no, I don't want to lose that one. So you can take a health damage and do that. But to me, that's if you only have 2 cards for one. Okay, so the way this game is set up, you're constantly losing cards. You never want to take rest if you can help it, unless you just have no other option. You really desperately need to use that card again. You don't want to take rest prematurely. You want to use up all your actions, because every time you rest, you lose a card. Every time. Doesn't matter if it's a long rest or a short rest. You will lose a card. And after 2 rests, you've lost a turn. After 3 rests, you've lost 2 turns. If you're doing these perma turns, you're losing more turns. So it goes really fast. And by the time you get to an end of a scenario, I don't even know what's in this 3rd section of this scenario. Okay, I died. So I have to redo this. This scenario had 3 bad guys and 1, again, I'll complain about this scenario in a minute. But ultimately, you have 3 guys and some extra complexity in this. And so you lose a few scenarios setting up, a few actions setting up, and then you go here. So I read that it said if you run out of cards, you are exhausted. So I need to reread that, it sounds like. Let me see. I will look. You got me curious, because I don't know, unless I misunderstood. I obviously sounds like maybe I did. But end of turn looting, mandatory triggers, item usage, spent icon, lost icon, flip coin. Some items cannot be used multiple times before they are spent, lost, or flipped. This is indicated by series. Some recoverabilities can recover spent or lost items, just like all items are returned to the original state between scenarios. Items with use slots. If an item effect has an attack, add bonus. Oh, I'm on the wrong page. 38. The resting. Let's see. Resting is the main way a character can retrieve cards to a discard pile. They have 2 options when they rest, a short rest or a long rest. In both cases, the rest can be performed if the character has at least 2 cards in the discard pile, right? Resting always results in losing 1 card from the discard pile, yeah. During the end of the round step, a character may perform a short rest. Exhaustion. A character can become exhausted in 2 hit points. No hit points, of course, hit 0, and no cards. If the character does not have at least 2 cards in their hand to play, or at least 2 cards in their discard pile to rest, at the start of a round, becoming exhausted this way does not... So... No, you do become exhausted if you don't have 2 cards to play at the start of a round. So running out of cards, I guess you're right. Running out of cards, you have to take a rest in order to avoid. So it's both. So you're right. I guess you can take all 5 of your actions, and I was thinking that you couldn't run out at any time. It sounds like you can't be without cards when the turn starts. So obviously, if you get to the end and you've got a pile of cards in your discard pile, you can rest and get your cards back and have the 2 cards you need to run. So that's helpful. And that's a clarification that'll actually still help. I'm still not sure it's going to help enough, given the number of cards that get burned through, to run a solo campaign with only 2 characters. And I think that extra action does stretch things out further, which I will definitely take advantage of when I redo this scenario. But hold on here. What do I got? Oh, yeah, I got it. I guess So that's very helpful, Martin, and I appreciate it. I will definitely consider that. Um, yeah, so I'm going to, I think I'm going to take a short break as I continue to talk here. Um, I will tell you, I still think your economy of actions is still pretty weak, and I think the Banner Spear in a two-player game with his really, really bad movement, only ever able to move two with the exception of one card that gives him four at the level one. Okay, I know it probably gets better in time. Toughen it out, getting through it will help. But still, that inability to keep up with a guy like Royce who moves so fast and so far, who's the Blink Blade, and Blink Blade being such a glass jaw, needing his buddy to keep up, they may not be a good pairing for two characters. So it's quite possible that with the problem is these two characters don't work well together. That as a support character, Adrian needs slower companions. That they're all slow, and Royce needs faster companions who will be able to keep up and help distract the battle a little bit more, being such a glass jaw. So anyway, there's my feeling. I don't think Blink Blade and Banner Spear work great together. I think I am not going to give up on them just yet. I'm going to try this scenario again, probably tomorrow, and with some clarifications, thanks to Martin and Alexander. I will attempt to do it and manipulate my moves all the way to that last card, since that clarified. But I also am not going to be able to save the cards, which I was doing wrong before. So I'm kind of like getting an extra turn, but not saving the cards, which I think may not help, because I just don't think there's enough actions for two guys to get all the way through this. Because all the movement alone, and again, the problem is partly Banner Spears just don't move well, and they're better in a group where they can kind of help. I wish their banners could be put down at a distance. Anytime you put a summon right next to you, it's kind of useless because he's slow, so he's already behind, and he puts his banner down, and your guys who need it are up in the middle of the battle, and they can't get advantage of this thing. It only reaches one to two or three spaces away, maybe. Again, I know it all gets better in time, and maybe I just need to tough it out for 3 rounds, see where it is. But anyway, I'm going to take a break. I'll come back in a little bit more, and we'll talk a little bit more about how the economy of scale and how Scenario 2 kind of has an extra challenge in it. Thanks. Bye. Okay, I'm back. All right, so where was I? Okay, so thanks to Martin and Alexander, who I'm sure are probably gone by now, but they did manage to give me some extra clues as to things I was doing wrong, both helpful and not helpful. I mean, things. It's always helpful that they correct me in the direction I'm going, and when I'm doing things wrong, but not helpful in that one of those things was the only thing that made me think I could get through this campaign with 2 players. Maybe. But I learned another new thing, which, there's a lot of words in these rules. I'm going to tell you right now. This about 100-page book. It's got 83 pages. 83-page rule book has words and words and words and words and words and lots of words. I mean, there are graphics and images on all this stuff, see, but it's a lot of stuff, a lot of details, and sometimes the key elements in here are one sentence. And if you miss that sentence or gloss over it, you could mess things up. And I will say that it's decently organized, but there are key elements to certain things, like the modification deck and other things that aren't where you'd expect them to be. So they might be like when you're battling, or you don't just look up modification deck. It's mentioned, like if you look in the appendix, it'll show you everywhere that a modification deck is mentioned, but it does not show you everything about a modification deck that matters in the modification deck spot. So you have to pick up some of that stuff just through reading the entire rules. Now, this entire 83 pages of rules does not cover everything that's in this little welcome packet, which, by the way, is only about 4 pages. But these are 4 very important pages in the setup. And there's a lot of words, even in this little puppy. It's written out pretty decently, but you want to read every last bit. And I did not. I mean, I thought I did, but apparently I skimmed over some stuff or didn't register something. But once you get that done, so basically there's 87 pages of important information just to read through the rules. And additionally, you have, the scenario book. And then the scenario book is just the base scenario, and you got all the little extras. Section 2, Section 3, whatever. Those are in the scenario details book, or the extra book that goes with that. And so you have 2 pretty decent sized books that just go with the scenario, and there's a lot of reading. The reading parts on those is mostly storyline, which is fine. I like that. But there's a lot of other stuff and setup and things like that. So back to what I was speaking of. And quick summary of the Banner Spear. The Banner Spear, not a great 2-player character. He just moves too slow and has too little bit of options to move. Never can do a double move because all the moves are on the bottom. So you'll rarely ever be able to do 2 moves if you need to catch up or move into an area or just get into a loot spot quickly. You can't do it. If there's loot falling all over the place and you want to pick up all the loot, you're going to burn through a lot of your actions. And every time you burn an action down to the point where you need to get rid of cards, you're losing cards. And if you play any of the lost card actions, I mean, think about it. All right, so the Banner Spear here has 1, 2, 3, 4. Has 4 of these 10 cards. There's 13 possible first level cards. There's 10 base and then 3 little extra ones that you can mix in, but you only get 10 cards. But if I use all 4 of these base cards, or these lost cards, that takes away 2 actions from your ability to do anything. And that means you're down to 3 actions. And probably by the time you've used all those, you've probably burned another couple of rests, at least 1, if not 2 rests to do that, because you're not going to get them all played at once. It's just too much. In which case, you're going to be down to like 2 actions. 1 and 2 actions by the end of the game. And that's so precarious. Because you're getting down to that end point where you may end up getting exhausted and just have to let your partner take care of it. And that's assuming they don't go exhausted. Because same thing, you get 13 cards for your Blink Blade. and some of his best actions are really using those those permanent loss cards. So there's 2, 3, 4. So he's got 4 also, and 4 of the ones I've picked. 2 of them are the extra. So he's got of the 13, he's using 8 of the base cards, and then 8 of the base cards and 2 of the bonus cards. The bonus cards are always usable. You could put them in. Actually, I think you can play with all your cards all the time, but you only ever get 10. So even when you level up to 2 and 3 and 4, if there's a level 1 card you just got to have, you're allowed to use them, I believe. I mean, it doesn't matter. You're just taking away from what level 2 cards you have. Ideally, I don't know. I mean, you hope that the 2s are all better than all the 1s, but sometimes certain combinations you might want to have that results in you keeping a 1 just for the sake of that combo that it could build up with a 2. So I do have hopes that level 2 cards are going to be better. I don't want to look ahead, so I can't really tell you for sure. But as of level 1, I say these 2 guys are going to struggle. They're going to struggle heartily to get through these things, because Adrian, the Banner Spear, moves terrible. So I think they're probably better combos. You need to get some guys into your... I'm going to look at the... I am going to review, or let's take a quick look at the Banner Spear's other level 1 cards. So what you really need to do, in level 1 especially, if you want him to keep up with a fast-moving character like Adrian, is you got to make sure you have all of your movement cards available to you. Anything that can move, you should include. So that means, look, already here's one that I should probably have had in my deck. It doesn't do, actually it's really not even helpful. Okay, so like I said, the movement half of your cards, that's this bottom half. Well, for most cards, all cards have a base bottom half movement of 2. If you decide not to do anything else, you can do the 2 movement. But there's only 3 other cards that you can use. And as you can see, now none of the tops of these cards have movement. They're just attacks. And they're these complicated attacks. And I'll tell you, I mean, they can be good because it allows you to do extra damage, making you a little bit more brutal, if you can get the bad guys in a place where you can hit more than one. It's really not that easy to do unless there's a lot of melee guys. But like getting range guys next to each other and working out those coordinating that stuff with a guy who, like Adrian has to be within 1 or 2 of all of these, and he moves so crappy, he's almost never that close. An archer, Adrian would get shot down by an archer in 2 seconds. They'd shoot him, bam, bam, bam. He only has movement of 2. He only ever gets to move 2 unless he has that one card that does 4. So here's the card that does 4. I think actually... Okay, so here. There are 2 cards for Adrian that do 4. They're basic. They don't do anything else. They just move 4. At level 1, put both of these in your deck. If you want any chance. If you want any chance to be able to keep up with your Blink Blade or any other fast-moving characters, you got to have the movement. And this is it, man. This is the movement that your level 1 Banner Spear gets. There isn't another thing. So, yeah, don't pass on these. Don't discard these. If you want to be able to move anywhere and accomplish anything, you need these 2 cards. So I took them out. That was a mistake on my behalf. This card here, Regroup, that 3 is not for you. That's for your allies. So that's, not going to help you. The other 2 cards you have, this one has movement as well, which is the Combined Effort. All it does is give you 2 movement, and again, 2 of your allies get movement too. That could be useful if you have one of your summons out, and but Adrian doesn't really need it. I mean, yeah, it's helpful to help your other guys get some extra movement. I'm sorry, Royce the Blink Blade. It does, giving him an extra 2 is nice, but it's not permanent, and it's just one of those It's one of those abilities. He just isn't going to benefit as much from it. Now, this kind of stuff might be more helpful to a guy who doesn't move as well as Adrian does, or Royce does. Sorry. But ultimately, I don't think you really need that extra movement. Now, the combined effort attack would be good. It puts a wound on a guy. If you have two guys there, you hit him for 3 and wound him. Wounds are nice because it's a good way to kill a guy. It's like bleeding is really what it is. You're making them bleed. I don't think there is a bleeding skill, but that's what the wound is. I don't think bleed. Let's see if there's a bleeding effect. No. So yeah, wound is basically bleeding, like on D&D. So it makes them kind of take damage every turn until they heal. And if they don't heal, they could just die, which is nice. You get them within 1 and it's good enough, right? So if he's a 6, you hit him for 5. He's done. He's dead before he ever gets a shot off, because that damage from wound is at the start of their turn. Suffer 1 damage at the start of each turn. So they're basically going to be dead pretty much that turn if they only have 1 hit point left. I haven't read if you can stack wounds. I haven't checked, like if 2 guys hit him with wound. I don't know if you can hit him with 2 wounds. But if you do manage to do 2 wounds and it does work, I'll have to look it up. It might, but I don't know. I'd imagine some of these can't stack, but maybe they can. So anyway, I would not necessarily recommend combined effort for your, because Royce is never going to get the benefit of that movement, rarely going to get the benefit of that movement because he just moves too well on his own. It can help. Plus, you have to be within range. You only have to be within range of 2. Range of 2 is not very close. And given that Royce moves so well, that the Blink Blade moves so well, a lot of times he's not that close to your guy. So that means he's not even going to get that. And as such, Adrian and Royce, the Blink Blade and the Banner Spear, they don't gel well together because of Royce's high speed and the Banner Spear's terrible slow speed. Those 2 4-card movements might help get you in there, but you're going to have problems with actually doing your summons, which brings me around to the Banner Spear's other problem. He's got these banners that he can summon. They're basically summons. They're creatures. They're not creatures, but they count as summons. And you have to put them right next to you. And they are always on the movement part of your character, which means you can't move and put one down. So really, in order to ever get one down in a location that's further away, you have to take 2 turns. You have to move at some point at previous turn and then put it down. So you like move your 4 at the end of your first action or the second. It doesn't matter. You move 4 during your 1 action, and then you try to put the Banner Spear out there the next time. Or not the Banner Spear, but the banner. Banners are at level 1. They're not worth it, man. They're just not worth it. Unless you could somehow get it into the middle of a crowd you think it's going to be useful. I'll show you what a couple of the banners are. And I've been trying to use them, but because of the range that they have, they really just don't. Maybe eventually you'll get stuff that like increases the range of your banners, which would be nice if they can go out another +2 maybe. The banners become a little bit more useful, but they stay in place. They don't move. They don't sit there. So you getting the ability to move your banners would be nice. So other things, if he's going to be useful as a defender, defend himself, become more useful at the range. Deflecting maneuver, very good for your Banner Spear. If you can get that cast, he gains 2 shield. Now granted, it's only range attacks, but that's pretty good if you're on this scenario, right? So they can't hit you so easily. But again, it takes your movement action. So that's another turn you're not moving. And moving as poorly as he does, you don't get a move often enough with the Banner Spear. Okay. Other thing. Now this one is also a shield. This kind of screws up your range attack, so even though you get a better armor, you add some extra armor to your basic self. So this will actually give you, between those 2, you get 3 armor, 2 of which is only good at range, or shielding, and the extra shield works all the time. So he's actually pretty resilient once you get both these up. But you're going to have, again, you got to figure out how to move. And this one, when you do this, it's one shield. Your range attacks now become shorter, and you don't have that much range on most of your attacks. They're typically about 3 or less, 2 or 3. Now again, maybe sometime it'll work better with longer ones later, but right now your level 1 stuff isn't very far. And this card is gone for good after it's done, so you don't get to use this again. So both of these cards, they stay in play perpetually. This one, you're allowed to take it back, kill it, kill this armor. But if you want it to stay in play, like you have those archers out there and you don't want to lose these, you're gonna want to leave this in play. So that's another card that you don't have. So technically, if you're using your lost card here and then you play this card, and it's also, just sitting there as your active card and you don't get to have it back, you run out of cards so fast. So halfway through the scenario, you may be down to just a couple of cards. That said, these 2 banners are not good. They just don't have any useful range. They have 4 health. I mean, they act as summons, so in theory, if the bad guys have to choose and it's closer, they'll go for the banner. They'll try to kill it. So it's kind of a distraction, right? I mean, they take 4 damage, probably get killed in 1 shot. Doesn't matter, just cannon fodder at that point. But their range is... Oh, okay. So let's see. They have their range of... let's see. This one of them is a range of 2, adds 1 damage to one of your attacks each turn. If you're within 2 of that banner every time. You have to be within 2 of the banner every time. It's not likely. For one, if a guy is right in front of you, it maybe if there's going to be a couple of guys there, but when you're 2 characters, you're rarely going to have 2 guys right in your face. I think even at any time later on, even because it's going to put less monsters on the board because they all can hit you pretty hard, and you can't have 1,000 monsters going after 2 guys because just economy of scale. The economy of actions, or it's an action economy, I think is what the actual term is. But if you have a bunch of melee guys, they're going to kill you. So you're probably not going to get these cast close enough that it matters enough. It's like if there was 4 of you on the board, I could kind of see it. Maybe you'll have a couple guys that could take advantage of the banners. They're sitting back. There's less other actions going on. There's more monsters on the board that might be centered by it. But because you have no range on these and you can't put them anywhere except right next to you, your other guys probably aren't going to benefit from it, or at least not in the case of the Blink Blade, who can move so fast so far. So yeah, I don't recommend these summons, but I will say that Driving Inspiration is kind of nice. It does only 2 damage, but it does it at advantage at range of 4. Having a range of 4 does help your Banner Spear be more effective. And it is a standard action, so you can do it at, if you can move 4 and shoot 4, you're going to get, you got a good range in there. Now, granted, it doesn't happen very often, but you have that as an option, making you a little more effective, at least for a turn. So I would recommend, for your Banner Spear, keeping your range. If you can't, since your movement is so bad, keep your range stuff. Don't let your range stuff out. So I would not use this ever for the banners, at least not with just 2 guys, because your teammate, whoever it is, probably doesn't want you sitting back there just dropping things that he can't use anyway, because he's not going to be within 2 or 1 to get that bonus. And since they don't move, see, there's 0 movement on both of those. They're kind of they're locked in place. So it's kind of a lost ability, and you lose the card. The only reason you might do this at the end, towards the very end of a battle, maybe if you think things are going well and you got some cards left over, do it, because it'll get you 2 experience. Doing this gets you 2 experience. Heck, at the last couple of turns, maybe just throw them up just to get those 2 or 4 2 experience or whatever. who cares? You know, hopefully you'll win. But don't do it if you're running out of cards. That's one of those things, is a last ditch, throw it up there, see what happens. You know, maybe you and Royce can clobber somebody because you've got these extra bonus. So, because it's a heal oneself is all it is. At the start of their turns, grant allies within 3 1 heal. Something, right? As long as, now range of 3 is not terrible. I mean, right now, like if he cast it, he would cover up to here. But these archers, who are not going to get any closer because their range is enough to shoot the guy here and here, are probably going to just shoot you from back there. So you got to run up to them, which means you're probably going to get out of range of the 3. So it's kind of, you know, this bottom one here only has a range of 2, which is getting really short. So yeah, but they're good at the late game, maybe opportunity or late scenario, just to get those 2 experience points, which are some of the only, you know, the only way you get experience is by casting these experience points cards. So do those as much as you can, but don't do them too early, because you'll just be losing cards that you're going to want in your hand, and one of those is this advantage card. This card, Rallying Cry, has the banner range is only 2, and it does give you experience for doing the Rallying Cry, but that's a tough one to get into. Again, it's because this guy moves so bad. You getting into position with your allies. Okay, so these are another reason. These combo Unbreakable Wall, all these multi-hits that require an ally, they're really bad with Royce, with the Blink Blade. Because the Blink Blade is, like I said, he's a glass jaw. He can't stand next to guys. He don't want to be anywhere near guys. So he's not going to stay in position for Adrian to run up there and... he's not going to stay in position for Adrian to run up there and, you know, allow you to hit. One of the things I don't know for sure, I mean... Alright, so for example, you cast this thing that lets you give an ally movement. Is it on their turn? Grant 2 allies within a range of 3 movement. Do they get a move right now? I don't know. I have to look. I don't know. Maybe you do. Maybe they get a move right away. Like basically they get a move on your turn. If that's the case, maybe that is better. Just allows them to get in place for you to do one of these actions. And as a solo player, perfect information, right? You get out there and say, hey, go stand right behind that guy so that I can hit him from the front. But you don't get a move. So if you're not already in position, it doesn't do you any good to get your allies in position. You need to be where you need this card to be. So it's like you already have to be there. So an archer's not most archers are gonna try to get away so they're not sitting next to you. And when they do that, that means Adrian or your banner spear is not gonna be close enough. So giving your allies movement to help you with the attack, it's gonna be useless. Unless you're doing one of these actions that allows you to be a little further away. Like right here. Like you're a little further away. You didn't quite get close to the archers because you couldn't move. You could say, hey, Royce, go stand between me and them. And then I can do this attack on all of them and do 3 damage and pin them to the ground, which means they can't get away from you. Not great. Because Royce would be like, what do you mean not get away from me? They're all going to try to hit me? Is that what you're saying? They're all going to hit me right now with advantage? It's like, I don't think I want to do that. Or disadvantage. They'd be hitting with disadvantage. But, yeah, so it's tough. I like my characters for the thematics of having Royce and Adrian going at it together. Because they are the Rairia bandits, or whatever you want to call them. They are... It's a cool pairing. I want to use them because I haven't finished painting them. Ultimately, Okay, I'll paint it some more. Sorry, guys. Okay, no, I'm sleepy. That kind of hit me all of a sudden. All right, so this scenario. Let's talk scenario 2. Scenario 2, solo with just 2 characters. This is the summary piece of this. One of the main objectives in the second part of the scenario, I haven't been to the third part yet, is to keep the Algox priest alive. Now, the Algox priest is not under your control. She acts as a monster, but an ally monster, which means she picks a focus and she attacks it. Which generally means if she has movement, she's going to try to get in range and hit if it's a range attack. If it's a melee attack, she's going to run right up to one of these guys and try to hit him, putting herself out there in the middle of battle. And Adrian, not being able to move, can't get up there and take any of that momentum. And she moves high in the initiative order, which means she would be a primary target given 2 things equal. I mean, oftentimes the priest will move really high in the initiative order, like top 2 probably. She has some slower actions, but she has a lot of fast actions in her deck. And that results in you being real high in the initiative. And unless Adrian, who's also usually got pretty fast movement, can be equally as close, there's rarely going to be an opportunity for these for the Algox for her enemy to pick someone other than the priest. And you have to keep the priest alive. And if the priest is running into battle to get closer to shoot stuff, you got to keep up. You got to keep up and keep in front. And it's a very complicated action. So keeping a character alive with only 2 other characters, so you have 3 or 4 characters, you can run them. You have more actions. You have more people to distract and potentially get in front of and move away. With such poor movement by your banner spear, you're going to struggle. So I do think you're going to want to change that. You're just going to have to come up with a way to move in there and get inside in between the priest and the enemy. And one of the people in the second scenario is an elite archer. She's got she could do up to 5 damage when they do their heavy hit. 5 is kill you dead. Now, Martin mentioned something that I saw by accident, and I did not see this in the rules, but I saw it on a card. It was one of the battle goals, and the battle goal said something to the effect of discarding a card to negate a hit. Now, see, I was not even aware you could do that. See, it's one of those things that's probably in the... Right. Dollar Zealot. Execution. Closer, Ravager, Strangler, Slayer, Labour. Oh, is it this one? Boy, Egoist. What's the name of that dang thing? Prohibition. Sluggard? Kill an enemy, kill an enemy, kill an enemy, move a negative, perform. Move when you have 1 or more cards in your hand, kill an enemy, collect 3 or more loot tokens, perform an ability, kill an enemy, Rambler, and then collect your tokens, yes, there is, sadist, passive. Yeah. cards. Turn. Oh, wastrel. See, there's this wastrel. Yeah, wastrel. This is the one. Lose a card to negate 2 or less damage from an attack. Oh, it's not quite the same. But apparently... Well, I don't know where it went, to be honest. But essentially it was just that, you know, it said negate an attack. Become exhausted. Negate an attack by discarding a card or losing a card. And I thought, wow, that's a cool thing. Can you do that normally? And if that's true, that might prevent the one-shot kills. I didn't know you could do that. Again, it's going to lower your action economy, right? So your action ratio. But that could potentially keep you alive as well. So I am learning a bit more. I think some of these, I think 2-player actions, I'm going to give this scenario 2 another try, probably tomorrow, like I said. Knowing a little bit more, having learned a little bit more, I still think it may not be doable, but you do get a slight bit more actions. I am going to hold on. I'm going to pause this and do a summary, but I want to do it as a separate stream, just so. Yeah, maybe I'll just edit later. Maybe. Okay. So anyway, there you go. Banner Spear and Blink Blade may not be the best pairing. And in summary, the Banner Spear is very slow. Keep your movement cards. There's 2 4 movement cards at level 1. Keep them in your deck. It's the only way you're going to move more than 2 spaces at any given time. Try not to lose those for as long as possible. It's the only way you're going to be able to move enough to take shots at range, to get to the loot. Getting loot is going to be really difficult because you will be losing cards every time you rest. So you're going to get 5, and then you're going to have 4, and then you're going to have 3, and then you lose probably. I'd be willing to bet you lose an action every round, every time between rest. So once you've done 5 actions, you're going to lose a card. So you're not going to be able to do 5 actions again. So you're going to do 4 actions. If you use any permanent action or lost card action, you're going to be down to 3 actions by the time you get to the next round. Odds are you will be down to at least 3 actions by the time you get to the 3rd round. Possibly even, you could go from 5 to 3 actions if you use any of your permanent cards in that first round. Or the ones that stay in play. Permanent in play or even just lost. If you take a big hit, times 2 action, boom, card gone. And the death blow is probably going to happen at least once in a scenario, or possibly once in a scenario to one of your guys. It's probably going to be pretty common. So you can get rid of at least 1 card to save yourself from death blows. I don't know if both guys will have to do it. Maybe bad luck can hit you that way, but yeah, it's possible. So you're talking about 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 actions. It's a lot. It sounds like a lot of actions, right? 9, what is that? 9, 12, 14, 15 actions. But you're not going to get 15 actions. I'm telling you right now. 15 turns before you run out of cards completely. That's it. You might get... No, you're not going to get 15 turns. There's too many actions that are permanents or stay in plays. You're probably going to get about 10 actions to complete a turn. And if you figure you don't get a ton of moves, it's 3 guys plus whatever's in this next area, probably at least 3 more guys. And that's with 2. There's obviously a lot more with more people, but with 2 characters, assuming you survive, you got 9 guys to kill and 15 actions to do it in. And that includes movement and loot picking up. So you're going to be hard pressed. I think it's going to be very challenging to win this game or beat this game or even to solo this game with only 2 characters, especially if these scenarios continue to get continue to be this challenging at level 1. You can probably do level 0 and maybe increase your chances because you're not talking one-shot hits on these guys anymore, right? So if I had 3 in the first section and 3 in the second section and 3 in the third section, that's still 9 guys, but maybe you kill them all in one shot. I mean, what is that? 30 turns. You kill them all. You're not going to kill them all in one shot, but you kill half of them in one shot. You got 9. So basically, your 9 guys is 5 turns of shots to kill them all, or 9 turns of shots to kill them out of 30. And that's both guys combined. Then you got your movement around to get your loot and all your lost cards. I say you're probably looking at maybe 12 turns, 9 shots to kill. 24 puts you about 15 actions that aren't kill shots. So maybe the first hit on some of these guys, picking up loot, throwing down summons, things like that aren't going to do anything. It's not a lot. It's not a lot of actions. It's going to go really fast. And you're going to be spending time on actions that are healing, trying to heal yourself. Again, not going to kill anybody. You better be effective in your killing the enemy. So there you go. There's my first review of Banner Spear level 1 and Blinkblade level 1 because I haven't gone into level 2 yet. And if you're picking 2 characters to solo with, which I will not, I really do not want to do 3 or 4. I think I would get burned out in this game way too fast. It's too long as it is for a solo play. But I might do it with 2 because it's kind of fun and I can get enough going. And I've been using this app that helps a little bit with the monsters, clears my table a little bit. But you have managing 4 guys. Just look, this is all the stuff that I use to manage the 2 guys I have. Putting another guy here and another guy there. It's 4 dudes. Then you have to pick it. Trust me, there's AP. Sorry, man. You pick up these cards. You got to study and figure out which 2 you're going to use. If you're reasonably determined, you know your cards really well, you kind of get a feel for what you want to do. But you got to kind of use all your cards. So sometimes you have 2 cards, you're like, oh, these are crap. It's like the Banner Spear. His kill actions, his hit actions. You can't do anything if you can't get in position. There's no... I mean, look. You got this Banner Spear. 1, 2... 3, and he's got 4, 5, 6 of his 13 possible level 1 cards have these maneuvers, and of them 1, 2, 3 of them can hit more than 1 character, which is nice. So you've got the Resolved Courage, Unbreakable Wall, and Tip of the Spear, but navigating an ally and yourself into these positions to do that and have the bad guys in places to take advantage of it is going to be hard and rare. I'm telling you right now, it's going to be really hard to get those in place with only 2 characters. If you have a lot of allies on the board, stuff happens and it's more possible. But with only 1 ally and your summons, but your banners are worthless, I don't even know why they count as summons. I don't know if they can be used for these kind of things or not. I don't know. They're considered allies. They have health and everything else, but I don't know. I would think probably not. So you've also got Rallying Cry and Combined Effort, which is, at least it's only 1 guy, but you still can't make the attack unless you've got both dudes in place. So these cards are worthless if you can't get your ally into a place to use them. That's 6 of your 13 cards. So really, if you don't want to mess with this stuff with only 2 players and the complexities that are involved with it, you're basically eliminating 6 cards of 13. Well, you can't. You have to use 10. So you're going to get stuck with 3 of these. So you're going to pick the 3 that are the most useful. One of them is your 4 movement. So there you go. You're going to keep the 4 movement in play. So that's 1. you're going to keep the other 4 movement in play, which is Set for the Charge. Set for the Charge has a good attack on it as well. So you might not get the good move with it if you use that, but it's not a lost card. But you just set up, and if one of these guys comes at you, you get to hit him for 2. It's 2. I mean, it's 2 damage. It's not spectacular, but it's something, right? They come up on you, and you can just get a free hit. But you want both of those. Those are both going to be in your move, no matter what. Now, other options, other things I would say you gotta keep. You have to keep the Javelin. You need the range. Your movement is not great as a Banisher. Keep the Javelin. Incendiary Throw. Again, this has the Torchbearer, who's a good card, but if you do the Torchbearer, you lost the card. But if you don't do the Torchbearer, that Incendiary Throw, it's got a range of 3. It's 1 damage on all. If you hit a guy on this attack, if anybody who's next to him is going to take damage as well. Or they gain wounds, which means they get to start burning. So that could be good. It could get some guys started if you get 2 or 3 guys that are next to each other. That Incendiary Throw could be a good option. So I would recommend it. Keep your range available to you, because there's not a lot of options if you're not keeping your range. There's, again, the Banner Spear has no real bottom half attacks. The closest thing to a bottom half attack is Resolved Courage. And all it does is add 1 damage to the next attack ability performed by you or an adjacent ally this turn. So, and it's this turn. So you already have to be there ready to hit. So, or have range. So if you want to use this with one of your range attacks, you better be in range at the start of your turn, because this card is not going to do anything if you don't have it. But it's not a bad add-on. And if you think you can get Resolve Courage, it might play. It's nice to play these if you can. They are experience, but they're not easy to play. Now your Javelin can do, if you use Javelin, you're going to infuse the wind. This card can utilize Infused Wind, which can add extra damage and advantage and give you an experience if you use the wind. So that's actually pretty good if you plan it out well with the Javelin being on the next turn. And if you get to use that, you will get the opponent gets disadvantage on you. So that's another defensive thing. So this is a pretty good card. It's a reusable as long as you don't blow it up. So I would definitely recommend Deflecting Maneuver as a helpful card to go with your wind capabilities. Now again, you've got these bad banners. I would probably recommend the Pincer Movement. It's a great damage card. It does 5. Probably will kill something if you can navigate the move. It's not that easy to do, again, because like I said, especially with these 2 guys, one doesn't want to stand next to people, and he already has to be in place when you do this. So maybe if you can go first before your buddy moves, you can run up there. Maybe he's already been attacked by somebody, and you can move the 4-move action and then do the Pincer Movement on this guy and do 5 damage to it, muddle him, which I guess kind of screws up his he gets a disadvantage for whatever he does next. So if he survives the blow, because a 5 is pretty good. At level 1, you're probably doing some damage. And it gets you experience, and the bottom half is what you're going to want to use when you're picking up loot. So you'll throw this down. Again, you can never do double movement, which really sucks, because how do you get in place to both move and get a one-off? Not being able to double move with a character, not having any top-level movement is just pain. Just pain, I tell you. It's so hard. But the extra range, the extra movement, what do you call it? The pickup for loot does help. So maybe you can get next to 2 of them at once and take 2. But I would recommend that just for that ability. So that's 6. Now, so you got these other 10 cards. You could, I think, regroup is an excellent healing. That is kind of your job. You're a support guy. You take the regroup. Regroup heals 2. It's you. It heals you for 2, but it's good, when you're taking damage or whatever. But you could take the 2 heal, and you get regen as long as you don't get hit. So you can give regen to a range of 2. Yeah. So it could be you that you give regen, or you can give one of your allies regen at a range of 2. So that's pretty good. And you give them movement. So this card could maybe get a guy in position. Say, hey, Ooga Booga. I don't know. You're doing something to motivate them, I guess. You're telling them to regroup. Go stand right behind him. Or stand in front of him. And I'll hit him for 5. Or do whatever I need to do with my pincer movement. So it's a good card because it gives your allies movement, and maybe you can get them in position to help you to double team somebody. So I would say regroup's good for the healing and for helping you to maneuver into or getting your allies in position to help you out. Same thing with combined effort. It's another one of those that you get basic movement of 2, so it gives you a little bit of movement. And you give your ally, somebody who's reasonably close, hopefully Royce or one of your allied characters, they get a move 2 also. So you're giving, this allows you to get in position for one of these attacks. One, obviously not this one, because you can't do the top and bottom of one card. But if you do it with, just do this bottom one, maybe those 2 guys could help you pin something. So you want to work on that. Again, those maneuvering cards come in handy. I'd recommend keeping them. Anything that helps you to move, helps you to get your guys in place, helps you to take it down for the win. All right, so here's 5 cards left. I definitely recommend. Okay, I don't like Unbreakable Wall. It's probably a bigger deal. Maybe there'll be times to like it. But because of your lack of movement, you're rarely that close to that many monsters, or even 2 monsters, or even, it's best with 1. I mean, it does 3 damage and pushes them away, so whenever. I'm not always sure about the pushing away. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, but ultimately, it's about just getting multiple attacks, so having more monsters there is going to be more important. This bottom half, though, is actually pretty good, and if you use the bottom half, though, you gain a permanent shield for the whole fight. But your range is going to drop, so be aware of that. If you decide to use this card, it's going to give you better defense. You're going to take 1 less damage all the time, which is very helpful. But it will also screw up your range. Your range goes from 4 or 3 or whatever you do. All ranged attacks drop by 1. So, that's kind of a problem. Now, it stays in play for the rest of the game until you're knocked out. So you put it down, your range is screwed, but your armor's up. So, again, this is another one of those cards. I do not recommend the banner, but maybe late in the scenario, you could throw it down and try to get the 2 XP. But having advantage at a range of 4 could potentially get you a good hit or a finishing kill on something. So I would recommend definitely keeping your range. Again, remember the banner spear, terrible movement. So keep your range and utilize that range with your speed. With your 1 or 2 good movement cards. So that's kind of it. This at all costs can heal. It's a great healing one, but you take damage for all allies that benefit from it. I don't know if that's good. If you're only going to benefit 1 ally, maybe. I don't know. It depends on your situation, I guess. It's not a terrible card. It is 3 health, especially with someone like Royce, who's very fragile. It does get you an experience for using it. This summon is not terrible either. He's look, he's got a 1 hit point, so he's terrible as far as surviving. But he is a guy that you can control. This guy, that's his big plus, and that means because mostly you can't control summons. They just do what they do. But this guy you can. And you can tell him where to go stand, which might help with some of your moves. So if you're doing some of those other things like saying, hey, giving an ally 2 movement, you can have him move 2 and right before you, and then you give him 2 more movement, go get him in right place, and then you try to do something. So he doesn't attack. He just moves 2. But the at all cost part of this is not great. So your top half is kind of crap. So since he's pretty much an insta-kill, it's tough to justify him. And these are the 3 cards that right now I have kind of taken out. They're the 3 that haven't made it. This disarm can be cool, but again, it's only a melee, so you have to be right up in someone's face, and you take away 1. You basically kill their attack for 1 turn, which is good. But you gotta have the formation. Gotta work that formation out, and you gotta have some allies around to do it. And this 1 to an adjacent ally, don't bother. I don't think it's that great. So I don't think you need resolved courage. It is nice pinning guys, doing 3, but again, you have to figure out those formations. At all costs, kind of weak. I would probably pass on these 3 cards. I think after having played this enough times with Adrian, I kind of figured the best options there are a little bit more are of the cards I just suggested. That's Unbreakable Wall, Driving Inspiration, Combined Effort, Regroup, Pincer Movement, Deflecting Maneuver, Incendiary Throw, Javelin, Set for the Charge, and Tip of the Spear. Hopefully, when I play this again, this will be the deck that now I understand. Okay, so Banner Spear is the easy guy. It really is. He's the simple one. Straight up, you got an action on top, a movement on the bottom, maybe a summon, but it's kind of it. Action top, or attack on top, and move on bottom, and some or summon. That's it. Now, the Blink Blade, way more complicated. He's got a lot more going on. Basically, he's got 4 things on his some form. He's got 2. Let's put it this way. Every card has a top and a bottom, just like all the rest. But many of those cards have a slow and a fast option. I'd say bonus, but sometimes it's not a bonus. It's a detriment for slow. And if you're doing fast, you do fast for the entire turn. You can't do fast and slow. If you're doing slow, you're doing slow for the whole turn. If you're doing, you can't do fast unless you have these little, if you have these little tokens on your board. Let's see here. So this is Royce, my Blink Blade. Let's see, do you have the other side of the card on here? These are his cards. And there's his character sheet. Oh, they don't have the other side of his card on here. Well, whatever. Okay, so actually, you know what? This is the side of the card. This doesn't show you everything that the card actually has, though. So this is what the Blink Blades card actually looks like. Okay. Let's see, I don't know. This camera doesn't focus real good, so I apologize for that at close up. But you can see it's got more stuff on it. It's got these little movement things on it. This is whether you got fast and slow little counters. You have to have at least one fast counter on here in order to be able to do a fast turn. If you go slow, you get 1 back. You can get 1 back up to 2 by way of just going slow. You can get more back by doing certain cards that'll give you others, and you can potentially get more. But ultimately, if you want to be able to go fast, you need to have tokens on here. So that's the key element to what a Blink Blade does. It's fast and or slow. Every card has a slow and a fast initiative value. So when you do initiative, you've got all the cards, these characters have initiative values in the middle. If you're going fast, your initiative is going to be a lot faster on Blink Blade, so you're going to be able to go higher in the initiative order. But if you're going slow, it's going to be much, much slower. You see that there's these arrows on both sides. If you're going fast, you get these two. If you're going slow, you get this one. If you're doing the bottom half. If you're doing the top, really this benefits only your slow state. This is in play. So if you're going slow, it ignores these slow parts. These slow parts are generally bad. They might, you don't move as far, or you don't hit as hard, or something like that. It's going to do something less. But if you want to negate that stuff, you can activate this section of this card, basically disabling this card, and when it's used up, it goes away. So it's one of your lost cards, but it is a very nice benefit. I do recommend using this with your Blink Blade. This ability here is worth it. I'm telling you, get rid of those slow negations, and your slow doesn't hurt so bad. But you got to be careful too, because you want to get these in play fairly quick in the scenario. I mean, it's your next 6 actions. I figure if you only get 15, so you want to get it in probably sometime in the first third of the scenario. If you know there's 3 sections, probably get it in maybe before you go into the second part. I would say get this in play pretty quick. It's very helpful. And anytime you're negating yourself, even if you use it all up, if you put it down right away and get this card going and use it all up in the first 6 or 7 actions, it's worth it because it could accelerate how quickly you're able to take out your opposition. But so I do recommend borrowed time. But the negatives of going slow is you're basically stealing speed from your allies. So if you're going slow, your allies get to move 1 faster, which is fine because that's nice. This is all your allies, which could help Adrian. So if you use this ability, this could help Adrian, but there's very rare opportunities to help your allies with Royce. Royce is not a ally helper. It could give him an extra move when he's desperately needing an extra move. But otherwise, he steals movement from your allies, which couldn't be bad. It's like, do you really want to steal movement from your allies? Ultimately, this card is all about the top. Get that in play. But do keep it. Borrow time. Hit and run. This is a nice one. Now, if I understand them correctly, if I understood the rules correctly, you have to do these in order. You can't do them out of order. Now, you don't have to do all of them, but if you don't do the first part, you can't do the second part and then come back and do the first part. You have to do them in order. So this one's called hit and run. So if you're already next to a guy or you haven't found some other way to move, you have to be there already because he's a melee guy. So hit and run means be there or don't hit him. You don't get to do this part. Then it's just run. But again, this card is all about the bottom half, and this bottom half is super nice. It gives you, when you're moving fast, it lets you jump over all the rough terrain and all the weird terrain stuff and don't take any hits in movement. Also, you get 3 movement at the end of an attack action. That's awesome. And then if you get all the way through it, of course, you get 2 extra experience, 1, 2. So that's nice as well. Hit and run. This is automatic hit and run. So you got a hit and run here, but taking this gives it for the next 5 attacks. You got hit and run, and you could do it with better cards than this crap. So I do recommend hit and run. Again, drive recharge. Drive recharge this is a really good card because not only does it give you these benefits if you decide to use it, but remember, if you decide to use these benefits that give you a ward for a turn and a bless in your deck and the 2 extra speed tokens, it's lost. Card is gone. You won't be able to use this card again. And this bottom part is super nice. If you're moving slow, it gives you regen and 2 health. That's good for a guy like Royce who's kind of weak. Now, regen only works to the point of don't get hit, but if he doesn't get hit, that's an extra health. And this card can keep getting used. So if you do something, take hit. I do recommend you avoid cards that inflict damage to Royce. So if there are cards that he can poison himself. Don't use that card. Royce is too weak. Don't subject yourself to pain. But do use this card. That health is helpful. Because he's got top actions on his card that both let you move and attack. So you get to move, attack, and heal. So if you use like this for your heal, then you play something like Kinetic Transfer or Hit and Run or Twin Strike. These all have movement and a hit. So you can do something and take out hit a guy and heal yourself, move, hit a guy. Again, Twin Strike's better if you are already next to somebody. But you only lose one attack. It's still move and hit, right? So you don't have to hit both times, I guess, if you skip a piece. This one, Twin Strike is super nice because it also has a heal. So you could use that as a heal. It does take away some of your action if you're going slow, but again, you can ignore the bad parts of the slow if you have that card in play. That's the Borrow Time. It does kind of look like it'll ignore all, so if you won't be able to do this if you have Borrow Time running. They don't talk too much about Borrow Time, but see, these cards here are not complete. These must have been early access cards or early displays, because you'll see that Borrow Time actually has 6 spots, and they totally changed how they display the permanent part of it. It's the same basic card, but this is how the final iteration came out of FrostHaven versus this card showing on the screen there. But I do recommend Twin Strike. Double hits are always a good thing. Temporal Displacement, very good card again. It's got both the loot pickup possibility, but if you're going fast, you actually have 2 movement to go with that loot pickup. Remember, Banner Spear had 1 movement or something like that to go with it. You get 2 movement and 1. And then he also has this bottom one, a bottom one with an attack. So he gets 2 range and an attack damage of 3. That's so good to have a movement on a top and an attack on the bottom, which means now you have the potential to do 2 sets of attacks, 2 sets of movement. I mean, you can mix and match this card with others and actually get double shots. Like, use this with Twin Strike and you can actually get 3 attacks. So good. So good. That's kind of what the Blink Blade's all about. Moving fast, getting in there, doing damage as much as you can, and 3 attacks. Oh, so good. Blurry Jab. This is another one that's pretty nice because it runs in there, or whatever you do, you get up, you hit 3 damage. And then if you're going fast, you make that 4 damage and a wound and an experience. Again, just tough to beat that. It's so good. And you could potentially have this be a 5 movement card for helping you get into battle and doing some significant damage. 5 movement? You're going to catch up to those rangers and such like that. But again, his problem is he's a glass jaw, so be careful about being caught in a crowd. Because if you move 5, get in there, do some... Maybe you kill a guy, who knows, hopefully with all those attacks. But if you fail... Not only will that guy you fail to kill hit you, anybody who's in that area with you is going to probably kill you too, or hit you too, and you will die. Or you'll be discarding cards out the wazoo to save your butt. But do keep that card. So as you can see, a lot of cards here are actually pretty nice. Sap Speed. This one actually requires you only to be in a position, but you can kind of hit 2 guys with it. And you can do it with advantage if you're going fast. 2 guys with advantage, 2 damage, and an experience point. Too good? You gotta keep it. Bottom one is nice. It's got you can shoot 2 targets at a range of 1. Not too great, but you can pin them so they can't move after you. So as you can see, that's already got me using up every card I have come past. with only 3 to go, which means theoretically I should not even look at these cards. So the Blink Blade has a lot more going on. All the cards are good. Most of them. I haven't looked at these ones yet. I mean, I have, but not recently. Overdrive. Overdrive is another really good prep card. It leaves play once you've got it. So, I mean, once you've used it, but it gives you a shield when you're moving slow, which is going to reduce damage, which is always great, and makes you move better when you're fast. That's like you can jump over obstacles and just be able to move smoothly, taking full advantage of your movement. Now, bottom half of this card, I think, you can muddle people at a distance. I don't know what. Let's see, what is that? Retaliate. Oh. Oops. Where did my... Jeez, I got a lot of crap on here. I think I accidentally turned it off. I did. Turned it off. Right. So, I recommend Overdrive. So we'll have to get rid of a card now. See, we're actually at a point where he's just got so many decent cards. Now, this one, if you can get wounds on enough people, could be good. And this is one of those cards that maybe... This is one of those cards that you might use when you get to level 2. Because you have ways to infuse multiple things. You might have ways to wound more guys. There's not a lot of wounding in here. He's got like 1 or 2 options at wound. But if you can get those on them, you can make them take an extra 2 damage. So that's actually pretty good. But this nice thing is everybody who's all targets within a range of 1 can heal for 2, and that includes yourself. So you can heal yourself. It's not just allies. So this is a great healing card. I do kind of recommend that you give Royce healing cards, because Royce is going to get hit, and Royce is going to, or your Blink Blade is going to get hit, and he's going to need to take... being a glass jaw, you almost always got to try to keep him at full health if you can, which can be problematic. Lastly, we have kinetic transfer. And this one's nice because not only is it it's a move attack, it's a move followed by an attack, but it infuses. There's not a lot going on in level 1 with these 2 guys that use these infusions. So it's probably the most sacrificable one. It is nice to have that. Also, being able to push guys away and use an extra time, but using up extra time tokens to push them away might not be worth it. It's using up a lot. Using up your time tokens is kind of expensive action to do. Also, it's a good one. It has a lot of movement on it. This 4 movement is great. But if you're going fast, if you're going slow, it loses 1 unless you have the card in place that negates the negatives. And you have to be careful about where you stop, because all your adjacent enemies and allies will take damage if you stop next to them. So it's a little risky, and the infusions aren't that useful. The pushaways can be good because he doesn't like people next to him. So think about it. If you hit, and you have the card in place that lets you run away for 3. You hit, push them away for 3, run away for 3. That person's 6 away from you now, and it's going to be really hard for them. They have to get into place that you. Most likely, a guy who's on foot, a melee guy, not going to hit you. It's not going to get to you. So only a range guy would be able to get to you, so that could be really helpful for Royce. So there you go. There's all 13 of the cards you can use at level 1. You can't use them all, but I think you're pretty safe. if you work out the strategies in your head how you want to do that with picking just about any 10 of these. My recommendations for sure would be definitely to take borrowed time and hit and run. They have the two abilities that you're going to want to have active. They hit that running 3 afterwards is really helpful. I tell you, I would recommend it. Remember, there's only, on the average, I think you're about 9 monsters per scenario. If you make 5 attacks on those monsters, and hopefully your teammate manages to take out 3 or 4 themselves, you're going to get to have that in play for most of your attacks. So 5 of them, potentially even extra attacks beyond that. So these 2 cards, Borrowed Time, Hit and Run, are both setup cards. They both will be out when you use them, so be careful about that. I would probably say pass on Connect Transfer. I do like it, but it's because of the infusions are kind of like a bonus you can't use right now. There's not really a lot of use in them. The 4 movement is kind of nice, but you have other things that move. Royce is kind of a mover guy. I would recommend keeping, I would probably say Sand in the Hourglass. Keep it in mind. Keep it one of those cards that you definitely consider later when you start getting more abilities to wound people. That extra, hitting everybody who's wounded for 2, maybe your partner gets some cards to start wounding people. That could be very helpful, but maybe not the most helpful right now. I mean, you will wound at a range of 1 right now, and then you can do this thing where you do 2 on them, and then so that's 3 damage. If you look at this card right here, you move up on a guy, you wound him, and then it says all enemies that have wounds suffer 2 damage. So maybe you have your Torchbearer from your Banner Spear out there, and he wounded somebody. So now 2 guys are going to take 2 damage. That's 4 damage. And as soon as their turn comes around again, they're taking another damage. So by the time that guy gets his turn, he's going to have 3 damage just right there. So if a guy's already been hit, you might kill him with those 3 damage. So it's not the worst. You're basically doing 3 damage to this guy, and it's going to keep going unless he finds a way to heal himself. But also you have this bottom part. You can heal everybody, including yourself. That's nice. At the end of your turn, play 1 card from your hand to immediately perform the top or bottom action of the card. So this lets you play another one of your cards. It's also pretty good. So I do recommend Overdrive for the movement and the shield. Geez, I tell you, he's just a strong character. All of his stuff is pretty decent. He's even got piercing on one of these attacks. The multi attacks, I would say Drive Recharge is a healing, and it also can potentially give you more times, more things. If you're really just going for the kill, I would probably take Temporal Displacement to pick up loot. It's so hard to pick up loot, and it's movement, so you may or may not use it primarily, but it is a card you're going to want in your arsenal. So of the last 4 cards, I would probably definitely take either Blurry Jab, or Twin Strike. Gosh, so many good cards. The Blink Blade has so much going on. Drive Recharge is pretty good too because it heals and it potentially sets you up with some long-term benefits as well. Man. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You know what? I think these are all the 10 in my deck. I did not show you the other cards. That's the problem. I was thinking those are all cards I want in my deck. How come I feel like it's... I want to show you the last 3 cards that the Blink Blade has a shot at. These are the ones I did not choose to put in last time I played this guy. Okay, so all his movement cards are pretty good in general, but so he's got this cascading reaction. Again, it's another multi-shot. If you're moving fast, it wounds him. It gives you an experience. It's 3 damage, 3 movement, 3 damage. Very good multi-hit card. But it's a one-time shot. One-time shot cards, as good as they are one time. They're going to go away. You got to be careful about using too many one-time shot cards because you're going to run out of actions. But if you use the bottom half, just the movement, you get to move 4. All allies can get 1 to their move abilities that move from a hex adjacent to you to a hex not adjacent to you this round. So if they want to move into a different position, they can add extra movement to that move. So, and it's a long-standing card. So that means if you're moving fast and you use this bottom half, it stays in play, and then you'll get it back. But if you use the top half, it's going to go away because it's going to be an X card. But good card, but it's a one-time use. You got to be careful about cards that are one-time use because too many of those in your deck will get smaller. Power Leak, this is one I don't like. It poisons you if you're, especially early in the game. Hurting yourself is not going to be good. You need to figure. You'll have to heal yourself right away. Do something to get rid of that poison because you are going to regret wounding yourself. I did that once and got killed right away. Hey Ninjoid, I'm not actually playing the scenario. I'm doing a quick review of 3 things: Blink Blade, the Banner Spear, and the scenario. I'm going to do the scenario again tomorrow. I picked up a couple new tidbits of rules that'll hopefully help me out, but both good and bad. But I'm having my doubts, Nindroid, that you can do that. Well, all right, that you can play this with 2 characters solo and with these 2 guys. I don't know. The Banner Spear is really weak because he moves so slow. But there are 2 cards that give him 4 movement, and then with range, maybe. But he's supposed to be your, as far as these 2 guys are concerned, he's the guy who's got to kind of be in there helping take shots for Royce. And since he moves so slow most of the time, a lot of his actions take up his movement. All of his summons take up his movement because he can't summon and move. So he's very simple to play, but he's also very one-dimensional. He's got move on the bottom, attack on the top. That's all it is. Move on the bottom, attack on the top, and maybe some summons on the bottom. But it's either summon or move on the bottom. And if you use one of those, you don't get the other. So it just makes it really hard for him to be effective in helping to protect or tank. And the banners he has, at least at level 1, are kind of lame because they're usually too far away to be useful. At least that's been my experience so far. It's only been 3 scenarios, so I might learn more as they level up. Maybe it won't be so bad. And I was also saying at Blink Blade, I gave him the quick review that he's really got a lot of good cards. I'm kind of going over his cards now, recommending what I say is probably best for his deck. But also, he's a glass jaw, very easy to kill, and I appreciate it, enjoyed. I think I'm starting to get it. Earlier today, 2 guys, Martin and Alexander, came in and helped straighten me out on a couple more items. I was misplaying the taking damage part in order to avoid losing a random card. I was playing it that you could take damage and lose and avoid losing a random card, but in truth, it's take damage and avoid losing that random card. You still have to lose a random card. It would just be a different one. And I thought, oh, great, because now it's even harder because you don't get enough actions. That's the biggest problem with 2 characters in this game, is I don't think there's enough actions for 2 characters to kill all the bad guys consistently without burning through your actions. And you gotta, because a lot of your actions are permanents, or they're lost when you use them, and so your number of turns goes down. I estimated it out. You get about 15 turns to win. If you don't do it within 15, and that's very rough guess, maybe I'll even count it one of these times, but my estimate is you get maybe 15 turns to kill everybody or be exhausted and die. And that's assuming you don't get killed by the bad guys. You will just run out of cards and you won't be able to do anything. So if you can't win the scenario in 15 turns, that means looting is difficult, because if you're spending 4 turns looting, and you figure on the average, one of these scenarios might have around 9 guys, and as you get bigger, it'll probably be more, but hopefully you're doing more damage, hitting more stuff. But at level 1, you get about 9 guys. I get 3 in the first section, 3 in the second section. I'm going to guess there's probably 3 in the third section. And if that's the case, I got to kill 9 guys in 15 turns. And I have to get the loot, if I want the loot, all within the last 6 actions. And it's actually 30, it's 15 turns, but 30 actions, right? Because each guy gets 15. But some of those are not very helpful. No, when you take damage, if you want to avoid it, this is one of the things I learned. If you take damage, you can negate the damage by losing a card. You just pick one and you lose it. It's gone for the scenario. It's kind of like a safety net against a critical hit. Because Royce can be killed in one shot. Royce is the Blink Blade. He can be one-shotted. Technically, so can my Banner Spear, Adrian. But she doesn't. It's harder. It's going to be harder to do. And I have had him get one-shotted. I did not know, but you can apparently sacrifice a card, just lose one out of your hand, to negate damage. So if you're going to get critted or killed, you can say, nope, get rid of it. It doesn't have to be random. You can pick one, but you have to get rid of it. But that will, again, that's economies of action. If that kind of thing happens to you and you have to get rid of cards, your 15 turns might turn into 14 turns or 13 turns. Right. 25. See, you're figuring I don't think you get 25 turns. Not per person. You might get 25 to 30 turns total before you run out of cards. Because remember, you're not just discarding cards. You're not just losing the cards as a result of resting. You're losing a lot of cards because they have permanent loss actions in them. Now, if you don't use those cards until the very end, maybe, but a lot of times the best times to use them is not going to be at the very end. You're going to try to use them to kind of clear out stuff and get out of bulk sections, and so you're going to use them a little bit earlier than that. So those lost cards are going to happen sooner. Also, some cards are stay in plays. You don't lose the card immediately, but it stays in play. It sits out there, and you've basically lost it for however many rounds it takes to use it up. So you're not getting that many turns. You're probably getting about 15 turns. That's what I estimate. Between losing cards for resting, you're going to lose one. So basically you go from 5 to 4 actions on the very first rest. So that's your first, that's 9 right there. If you don't use any permanent cards. If you use any permanent card, or one that stays in play, in that first 2 rounds, you're actually only going to have 3 rounds. By the time you get to the second, you're going to go from 5 to 3 pretty quick. It's real easy to go from 5 to 3. If you don't use any of those cards, you can probably make it 5-4. But at some point, you're going to get to 3 or 2 move actions. You're going to jump down. You're going to lose cards even faster. So those last couple of rounds could be kind of close. You might be down to just 1 or 2 actions. And if you get down to 1, well, you're going to exhaust. Unless that's the finishing blow. But, so yeah, you're probably not getting that many. Right, and that's kind of what I've been recommending with some of these cards is, like, for example, the summons are persistence. They can come in and help you be effective right away, and potentially, if they don't die, they stay in play. But I said with the banner spear, don't bother with the banners. The banners don't move. They don't have enough range. They're only going to be useful in that one spot that you put them in. The only time I would recommend using them is like at the end of a scenario, you're kind of looking good, throw them out there because they'll give you experience points. They're worth 2 experience points to throw them down. But as far as being useful goes, I wouldn't use them. They just don't have enough range. But so I actually came up with what I think is probably the best thing for the banner spears. Always keep your 4 movement card in there. He moves crap. He can never move twice because he just doesn't have any upper half card movements. So you're always going to get 1 movement, and and they're all 2 or less, unless you're doing those 2 4-card movements are the only way. Now, unless some other partner of yours manages to give you movement. So, yeah, he's a very slow moving, and some of his abilities aren't great, but a lot of his abilities are persistence. The summons are persistence. Some of his good moves are lost. They're lost cards. 3 to 4 lost cards on a lot of your guys. So if you do that, you're risking stuff. Like with the Blink Blade, he's got 2 really good cards for level 1. I think are really good, and that's this the hit and run and the borrowed time. And I kind of went over those earlier. They're really good because they provide you with persistence. They give you extra movement, and they negate the slow parts of your slow actions, and they can make things a lot better for your Blink Blade. Oh yeah, no, I knew that. I mean, discarding persistence, but why? I mean, the only reason you would do that is if you're getting low on cards, and it's a persistent that you're able to recycle. Not all persistents are recyclable. A lot of times, once you discard it, it's a lost card. So, not all of them. I mean, some of them do come back. I think one of the summons for your banner spear can get thrown back into the bin, but a lot of them are lost cards. They give you experience for using them, but they're still one-time shots. Like the banners, the summon Banner of Hope. Why would you get rid of it? I mean, you get 2 experience, which you're going to get anyway, as for having cast it, but it's a lost card. So once you've cast the banner, there's no advantage to getting rid of it because it's going to the yellow, blue yonder or whatever it is. Same with your torchbearer. Once he dies, he's done. There's no point in discarding him. He just sits there and he dies and does whatever. But so yeah, a summon that you could discard and get back because you need the extra card, I can understand, but unless the persistence, I mean, there are other persistence, I think, that will come back to you. I don't know if the Banner Spear has any. Some of these go to the end of turn, which, is fine. But yeah, the Banner Spear doesn't really have any persistence that come back to you, that can be recycled into your hand as a card. So you're not really gaining actions back. So there's not a lot of benefit to doing that. Yeah, no, that's definitely what I learned with the Blink Blade. He's very quick. You get that. You get the action. You get his. Basically, if you can get hit and run down, that's so good. The hit and run lets you go. Whatever actions you do, you attack. You get 3 movement to get the heck out of there, and that's kind of his thing. Hit and run, move fast, get in there, do as much damage as you can, and run the heck out. And hopefully, not get shot in the back when you run away. That is the thing, right? So if he can't get far enough out of range that he's not the chosen focus of those monsters, he's still potentially going to get killed. And 3 is not that far away, and if he was the last guy to hit someone, again, that's where the problem is with Royce and Adrian here. Adrian moves really slow, and he's rarely up front with the battle. So Royce has to find a way to get behind Adrian or behind one of the other allies, so he's not the target of the next attack. There are a couple things. He does have a shield thing he can put in play that works pretty good if he's moving slow. But yeah, he's a very good hit and runner, but he's also still not always able to get far enough away. It depends on the action he does, because there's some cards that'll let you hit and run and as a part of it, and then you have the extra run that could go, so you might get 6 away, but it's not going to happen on every turn. So I do recommend getting hit and run and play as fast as possible, getting that down, giving yourself that extra 3 movement, giving yourself all the chance, because he's a glass jaw. If he does get hit, he's pretty easy to go down. You might find yourself sacking cards to not die more than once or twice a scenario sometimes, especially if the rolls aren't going in your favor. So anyway, the last cards I was talking about that I did not choose to use, I think things like Cascading Reaction might be pretty decent because it provides the wound, and then you use it with what is it, Sand in the Hourglass, and everybody you've managed to wound takes an extra 2 damage. So think about it. You do Cascading Reaction 1 turn, give 2 guys wounds, hopefully, and then you do Sands in the Hourglass on the next turn where you give someone else a wound, and now you've just dealt out 6 damage to everybody, and on their next turn they're all going to take 3 more damage. So you're really going to do a lot of damage with those wounds, and it could be very very beneficial. So, and as I was saying, there are definitely cards in the Banner Spears deck of 13. You only get 10. That I don't think they're worth the effort. They're kind of mediocre. You might as well leave them out. The Blink Blades cards are all, with the possible exception of Power Leak, which I do not like Power Leak. All of them can be used. The Experimental Adjustment, holy moly, what does that do? I don't even know I've ever tried to use Experimental Adjustment. What is that? What is that? It's doing some kind of what is Experimental Adjustment? This one's got a weird thing on it, that's why I'm looking at it. I can't tell what Experimental Adjustment does. I don't know if that's saying he's stunned for... I don't know what that is. All enemies within 2 range suffer damage. He does this little bow tie thing. He's invisible. Cannot be targeted. Remove it. Oh, interesting. So, yeah, I don't know what this is. Anybody else know what this is? Yeah, oh, Drive Recharge. Drive Recharge I've done on multiple occasions. It's very nice because it gives you the extra movement. Yes, that's definitely a good one. Oh, yeah. No, there's no doubt about that. Well, sort of. I mean, again, I'm just giving you... my experience. This review, for anybody who sees this, it's all about level 1. Okay. Things change, I'm sure, at level 2. Because you're going to get better cards, better actions, better things to do, things that stay alive better, hopefully less likely to take those big hits that can kill you or make you have to discard cards. So, yeah, but that's what I'm saying. The Blink Blade has a lot of stuff going on, and I think almost all of his cards are good, though I do not like the Power Leak. I think poisoning yourself at level 1 is such a bad idea unless you're going to keep healing yourself. The card it does do 4 damage. Maybe if it's the last thing you do, but hey, you can't be saving cards without use. Just throwing them away. I just don't think that works. And healing 2 at a range of 1, you're not going to be that close to your allies very often. Royce is almost never next to Adrian. I'll tell you that right now. It's very rare that he's that close to Adrian. At the very beginning is about the only time. Royce moves around too fast, and Adrian moves way too slow. So they're rarely that close to each other that I could time out using something like a heal for everybody. He does need heals in his deck. You got to heal him because he's a glass jaw. Any damage he takes, he's close to death. So you've got to keep some heals in your deck, ways to heal yourself, and hopefully Royce or Adrian can get some heals on him, keep him alive. So he's not doing rest heals because rest heals take forever and they're just bad. You lose turns. You don't want to rest heal. You don't want to do long rest very often because it just takes turns away from you and you don't want to do it. But I guess it can buy you some time with your cards. I don't know. But anyway, I would not recommend Power Leak. Sands in the Hourglass, I retract slightly because there are, if you use it with Cascading Reaction, Sand in the Hourglass could be very potent. So that's an option. Wow. But like I said, the Blink Blade is really good. All of his cards kind of work.
Another Amazon customer. The Wizarding World's premier expert on animal life hits the big screen in North America on November 18th.
Alexa, stop. Why did she start talking to me? Yeah, no, but Power Leak is not. I mean, yes, there's a lot of ways to do really good damage, but I think the Blink Blade has more options to do lots of damage without doing 4. I mean, without poisoning yourself. Okay, granted, you could be moving slow. True. If you're moving slow, you don't have to poison yourself, but you muddle yourself, which is not great either. I mean, what is muddling giving yourself disadvantage? Disadvantage in all attacks. So basically, your next turn you'll have disadvantage for your attacks. So basically, you have 2 actions on here. You get to do 4, but you have 2 bad effects, both fast and slow. I don't think it's worth it. I think his Twin Strike, his Blurry Strike, his he has other options. I would not recommend poisoning your character unless you've got healing set and loaded for the next turn, because you do not want to be taking damage from poison. I just don't think it's worth the risk. I don't think the extra one. I mean, like Cascading Reaction. All right, here's one question I need to ask you guys. I've been trying to figure this out. I thought it said if you had 2 attacks, you could not use them on the same character. But I may have been wrong because I've been wrong about a couple of different things. So tell me, can you use like Twin Strike or Cascading Reaction on the same guy? Is that where is that in the rule book? I mean, I always like to read it so I can read and understand how it is, because I was pretty sure you could not, but then I started having doubts because it looked like monsters are allowed to hit you if they've got 2 attacks. They can hit the same person twice, because I read that. It says, oh, they'll hit both guys, they'll hit the same person 2 times if that's what their focus is on. So I don't know. So the card has to say you can't. Well, see, that's just the thing. If you really think about it, then Power Leak, if you do Cascading Reaction, it does a wound, 3 damage, you move, and then you do another wound and 3 more damage. I don't know if you can stack wounds, but that's 6 damage. If you do them to the same guy, that's better than 4 damage from the Power Leak. So, now granted, this is one of the bad points of that. It is a one-time use card. It's not a cyclical card. But there's also Where is it? Twin Strike. Twin Strike is 5 damage. You do 2 damage, you move, gain some experience if you're going fast, and then you do 3 more damage. Again, and it's a cyclical card. You get to keep using it. I mean, discard, get it back, discard, get it back. So that's 5 damage. Again, not poisoning yourself. So I don't think if you can use 2 attacks on the same guy, Power Leak is not better unless you're going slow. That's the only time it would be better. But then again, Power Leak muddles you if you're going slow or poisons you if you're going fast. So you're doing something to yourself that's going to screw your next turn up for those 4 hits. Whereas this, if you're at least going fast, you get to move and hit again. Or hit and move again. And then if you have that, if you've got the, what was it? The not borrowed time, but, where'd it go? Oh, hit and run active. If you got hit and run active, then you get to move away too. So you're going to get a hit, move, hit again, and then run away for 3, and never have messed yourself up for the next turn, which Power Leak will do to you. So I don't think Power Leak has anything going for it. You don't get 2 targets. Well, yeah, I mean, if you have some other thing that's giving you extra targets, sure, but that's going to be totally different thing. Power Leak is 1 shot. It's not, you don't get extra targets from Power Leak. It says if you do not have poison, gain poison. Oh, I see what you're saying. You can add another target. Yeah, but you're poisoning yourself. And you don't get a move in the middle. A 4 hit at level 1 has a pretty good chance, if you figure you get your modification deck in there, or if it happens sometime other than the first hit, you have a pretty good chance of killing the guy. And you don't get a move again. So unless you manage to land right in the middle of 2 guys with your action before that, whatever it was, I just don't like hurting myself. It's a thing. It also doesn't, and the fast part is mandatory. So even if you don't have an action or another person to hit, you still gain the poison token. Because you can't skip the fast and the slows unless you have something active that says you can skip the fast or the slows. But normally you can't skip that. So you will take a poison token regardless if there's another target or not, if you're going fast. So again, it's like you don't always have another target. You can, it's possible if you time it right and get, and that also means putting Royce in the middle of 2 guys and hoping that you kill at least one of them so they don't kill you on your turn. But I know. I get your point. It is a good hit. I just I just debate the he's just too much of a glass jaw. A guy starts with 8 hit points. He's going to get hit. Almost always gets hit. Even when I move away, and he's just always in range. 1 times 2 on Royce. If you poison yourself, you're at 7. A times 2 on a 3 damage attack, which almost all these guys can do 3, with the exception of maybe one of these stupid Algox priests. And I'm talking level 1 again, still talking pretty early. That's 6 damage. The poison will kill you on your next turn. You're just dead. So you have to heal. You have to plan that out. So yeah, it's a decent thing, but I did it before, and it does do good damage, but it also risks your demise. But being able to discard a card to save your butt, I just learned that the other day by reading one of the goals that says discard a card to save yourself from damage. And I'm like, wait a minute, you can do that? And then somebody told me earlier today that yes, you can do that. and it does kind of reduce your movements, your actions, but it's a nice thing. And something like Power Link might not be as bad, but it's still, I don't like, I have this gut thing about purposely hurting myself when I'm already only got 8 points of health. Blurry Jab is nice. Well, yeah, discarding a card will prevent kill. And there are other cards that make it better. You know, you can give them disadvantage, and you can do. But you have to get all those things in play, and those things all help if you can do it once per turn, once per scenario, twice per scenario. But yeah, there's always ways of doing things. But under normal circumstances, you don't always have those ways available to you or in action. And of course, if you activate those things that work, those things usually, like, there's some cards that will give your opponents disadvantage or muddle them or whatever. You want to get that stuff. And at level 1 is really, like I said, this is all about a review of level 1. And not even so much that the characters themselves are not good or playable. It's that, in fact, Blinkblade, I think he's a great guy. I think all of his cards to some extent are usable. Even Power Leak to some extent. I won't use it, but I don't think it's worth the cost. But I do believe that he's got like so many good options. There's so many good things that his character can do, and as you learn him and start to get more familiar with what he's capable of, I think he's very good. The Banner Spear, on the other hand, less so. I like him partially. I like the Banner Spear because thematically she fits my character pairing, but functionally I'm gonna have to definitely try to figure her out. I think the Banner Spear is a simpler person to play, but harder to play well. That's really what it is. She is much harder to play well because she's simple, but her very straight, cut and dry movement on the bottom, attack on the top, and then all your summons are on the bottom, which eliminates some of your movement, is all very cut and dry, very basic, and very hard to make her be where she needs to be to do her thing. And yeah, I'm not a huge fan of it as a character, and I would probably recommend to new players. I know she's easy. Maybe if you're playing with 3 or 4 people, she could be good because she can be more supportive, because that's really what she's supposed to be, I think, a support character of sorts. Get those guys in there. Her special ability attacks are great if you can get them launched, get them fired off. And I think that's the thing. You got to get those movements in place, give your allies the moves they need to get in position. But here's the deal. If I have her tell Royce, give Royce movement so Royce can get into position, and she fails to kill, or the act isn't a finishing blow, and Royce is sitting there next to enemies because he moved into position, those enemies just kill Royce, and Royce will die. Or, I have to discard cards or do whatever I need to save his butt. But it's like, it's he's not a good teammate when it comes to, hey, go stand in the middle or go stand behind this guy, because the guy could ends up hitting you, especially if Royce is the one higher in the initiative. So yeah, you got to work that initiative so you make sure if Royce and Adrian are going to hit somebody together, make sure Adrian has the higher initiative, because the monster will have to choose between the two of you, and he's going to hit the one with the higher initiative. So if Royce is moving really fast and he's got his movement down to his initiative's 15 or something, it's going to be bad because Adrian has to be lower than a 15 or he's not going to be the one hit, and Royce takes the hit. Yeah, but basic move 2s are not good. He's usually too far away. Like, for example, look at this. This is where it was when this ended. Okay, you can't see too well on here. I mean, it's on the board. But all right, we got... This is the scout. He's 3 moves away from Adrian. Adrian was back here when Royce went down. We have 2 archers out here. One of them's elite. The stupid guy I had to protect. Of course, he runs up on a regular attack because he didn't have range on that attack so that he could hit this guy. So now this guy I have to protect. Royce is down. Both these archers shot and killed this guy. He's not that strong. He's a priest. He's got 6 health. This stupid elite guy can kill you, no problem. And there's no way to save these dudes. You know, they get shot. They get shot. There's not a way to save a monster. I don't think you can just discard a card to negate their death. So what could I do? So Adrian, to get in position, knew this was going to happen, but he only had 2 movement. Couldn't get close enough to help. He couldn't get in front or even make the priest be a secondary choice target. 2 movement is terrible. You got to give him he's got 2 cards that can move more than 2. And you can't control the movement of monsters. So even giving him extra moves, what's the monster going to do? He's an ally. Move 3, monster. Monster's not going to move away. It tells you how to play monster movement, and they don't move away. Unless the only time they'll move away is to not get disadvantage on an attack. So if you give the monster 3, he's going to move closest to the first guy he can hit, and he's going to stay there. That's it. They minimum movement. So you can't really make a monster be useful, even if they're allies. If you want your allies to move usefully, the only one you can move are the reinforcements, which isn't this guy, that's the torchbearer, or your teammate. They're the only ones who will move cooperatively. They don't have fixed movement actions, and everybody else is just like. So Adrian's 2 movement is terrible. That's why I say you have to put the 2 4 movement cards in your deck to give you any chance to be able to negotiate some of these longer distance actions, especially when you're dealing with archers that don't want to come near you. They're just going to shoot the guys in front. And if Adrian's in back, it's going to take a month to get up there. 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. He can never move double. Like Royce. Royce can move twice if he wants to. He can move up to 3 times, sometimes 4. I mean, he's got crazy movement abilities. Some of his bottom halves will let him move 1 or 2 actions, 1 or 2 times. I mean, look at this. Power Leak. Now, again, I don't use Power Leak very often, but there's others that do something pretty close. 7 freaking movement. he could move all the way across the freaking board with that. And if he really wanted more, he could do a movement like this. 7 freaking movement followed by 2 movements. So 9 freaking movement and then damage and push the guy away. So Royce can get anywhere he wants within a move or 2. Adrian, 2 or 4. That's it. And you're only going to get the 4 if you happen to have it in your hand or you don't need those cards for something else. And 2 is just bloop, 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 bloop. You can never move 2 times. That's what I'm saying. It's really hard to play the Banner Spear well, just because he's limited. His coordinated efforts, all of his coordinated attacks, can do a ton of damage because you can hit a lot of guys if you can coordinate the positioning of all your guys. And again, this is a problem with 2-character game. Okay, I think Adrian would be very good in a 3 or 4-player game. I don't want to play a 3 or 4-player game solo. It's too many things to manage. It's too many cards out here, too many things, too many decisions to make on the decks. Game takes forever as it is. Even when I play my scenario here, even though I'm learning and getting through it, I still say it's going to take me 3 hours, 4 hours to get through because it's just slow. That app I used is actually not too bad. It helps with the monsters, keeps the desk a little clearer. We'll see. I'm going to try it again tomorrow. But I really believe that you're better off with a different pairing. The Blink Blade is very good. I haven't played the other guys. I probably will not abandon this combo, and I'll tell you why. I'm playing them for the storyline. I just got to really figure something out. It's really hard to make Royce turtle while Adrian tries to catch up. So I'm putting both 4 movement cards in my deck, hoping to be able to manipulate that a little bit, get him into the mix faster. But when Royce can move 5, 6, 7, 8 movement sometimes, and Royce is moving 4 at most, and only occasionally, it's very hard. So yeah, I'm complaining about Royce or Adrian. I'm sorry, Adrian is just not great. Well, yeah, I do that all the time. That's what Royce does. In fact, if you use the 1 card, he runs away. That's what I do all the time. He's like he runs, hits, and runs away. But running away is not always a viable solution. Because you got to remember, if you have to go late in one and early in the next, assuming you don't get killed in the one where you went late. So you go slow, and then you go fast, and then you go fast again. Hopefully you have 2 actions. So you got to make sure you got to go fast and early. But remember, if you're close to a guy, the archers in back are usually further away, but they can hit you. So say he's sitting here next to this scout. Yeah, he gets to go quick. Maybe he'll kill him on the next turn. But this elite archer and this archer here, who are both close to him, are going to shoot him when he goes fast. So you're going to get 3, 4 damage plus whatever the stupid modification deck does, which hopefully will be negative, but doesn't always work out. And then this guy also gets in for another 2 or 3 damage. For a guy who's 7 or 8, that's death. Unless he's discarding cards to save his butt. But what I'm saying is it's probably not it's not going to go well for him if 2 archers shoot him. They're quite capable of killing him outright without the help of the scout, even if he kills the scout. So he successfully kills the scout, and then he has to run away. But these guys usually have a movement of 1 or 2, and getting a range of 3 is pretty standard for these guys. So Adrian, like I said, was taking his sweet time getting up here, moving 2 at a time. And remember, he also has to give up his movements to summon things. So if he wants to bring a guy in play, that's why he's so far behind. He summons a torchbearer. That's his turn. He don't get a move again. So now he's back here. He summons the reinforcements. That's his turn. He don't get a move. So that's 2 turns where he doesn't move at all. And Royce is, hit and run. But we got to protect this guy who's trying to sit out there, who keeps moving closer to the stupid monsters so that he can shoot him. And they're going to shoot him. And if he gets killed, the scenario's over. Scenario's lost anyway. So that's what I'm saying. It's complicated with 2 people. But if you're playing 3 or 4, you have a lot of guys who are working together, who can get in there, be in the way, keep the priest from getting dead, gang up on granted, there's more bad guys on the field. Yes, I get it. But I'm just saying you got more guys to coordinate with, more to work with. But it's too much to handle for solo play. For me, I don't want to do it. I don't want to play for 7 hours to play through a scenario. I already talked too long. Look, I've been doing this scenario here. This here it was supposed to be like an hour or 2. And I've been doing this for like 4 hours now. And what have I done? Nothing but talk about the Blink Blade and Adrian. I should probably go through this and cut it up and do it like a compressed review of it. But yeah, because my understanding is you cannot control monsters, even if they're allies. They have a specific thing that they do. They base on their focus or whatever. So if you give them 3 movement, you don't get to tell them where to move. They just move according to their needs for their action. So they could get into a better position to attack and such. The priest is just, monsters are dumb. The only time that they do anything smart is when they're an archer and they don't want to take disadvantage, so they'll move away a space just to be out of range of disadvantage if they can. It's like, what is it? First is maximize the number of targets. Second is minimize the number of disadvantages. So if they can hit 2 guys, they'll take disadvantage on one of them if they have to. But if they can hit both of them and then minimize still and not take disadvantage, they'll do that. But there's no rules in there for saying you can tell the monster to go anywhere you want, even if you give them movement. So the only guys you can control are your allies, your party members, and those summons that specifically say you can control them, like the reinforcements. Like, you can't move a banner, so I don't have movement. And the torchbearer is another one. You can't tell him where to go. He just moves too. He's a dumb monster. he's kind of cool. He wounds the enemy if he can hit him, but he's a dumb monster. So I'm just trying to catch up, guys. I'm reading your text. Well, to be honest, I never actually thought about trying to move my banners with a grant an ally action. So how does that work? So it's like you pick, because you're granting your banner movement. I get caught up sometimes on the logistics of that. You're not really granting so you're picking up your banner and moving it. Because how would a banner, it's a stick in the ground, right? So granting it movement, how is it moving? I don't know. I think that's kind of weird. You're right, it's a summon, and they act as targets even for the monsters. But I would not have thought, how do they move? I don't get that. Right, but if you're not next to it, like say you're sitting, your banner's here and your guy's 2 away, and it says grant an ally within 2 movement. Your banner just kind of just starts floating forward. It comes closer to you. It's like, oh, there you are. A good breeze. You give it a good, this burst of wind comes out of nowhere and picks up the flag and it just blows it forward 2 spaces. But that's why it doesn't seem logistically to make sense. But yeah, I know it's a summon. And even so, like the banner is sitting right here. The monster will attack the banner because it's closer to him than you are. Because it's just another ally that's sitting on the board that he can hit. It's like, see, monsters are dumb. It's like, why would you ever attack a banner? Because you don't know what that banner is doing. You don't care. They stick this flag in the ground. They're going to kill you. Even a stupid wolf in the real world is going to go after the people. It ain't going to go after no stupid pole in the ground. Doesn't matter if that thing is emanating some kind of magic. They don't know what that is. I could see it maybe if he's a smart boss guy or something. He's like, oh, let's take out that thing that's boosting these guys. But see, I digress. Talking about something, that's the problem. I play D&D too, and there's a lot of things in D&D. I'm like, but that doesn't make any sense. I can get into a whole discussion about D&D and some of the stuff I don't understand how. As a DM, I have thrown certain rules out, or at least not allowed them in some scenarios because they're stupid. They don't make any sense. I know some of my players don't like it. But look, I've also given people the ability to do certain things because it made sense in the situation. And I was like, say, yeah, you can do that. I know the rules say no, you can't, but I'm saying yes, you can because I'm the DM and I'm allowed to change the rules. Because in this situation, that makes sense. My players never complain about those scenarios, mind you. I've never had them once say, says I can. I probably shouldn't. I think you're wrong. No, they don't argue that point. They always like, oh, okay. Hey, cool, yay. And then you tell them no on the next thing, and they're like, but why? The rules say I can. Anyway, let's get back to it. All right. Wait. You can give a banner an attack? Oh. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know that I could do it. I don't know how often I'll do it. It just I like. All right, here's the thing about playing these kind of games. This game, D&D, whatever. And I know, okay, trust me, I understand that what I'm saying probably is dumb. I like to at least bear some reality in the game I'm playing. That the magic I could see coming out of wherever and does whatever because it's magic. But, motivating someone to move an extra 2 spaces, how do you motivate a stick? Or attack, or do whatever. See, that kind of thing, short of it's saying cast a spell on an ally to make him attack. Okay, I could see that. Your banner comes to life and starts slapping somebody with the flag because it's now been animated by something magical. But I have a hard time with the whole, because the banner spear, what the things he's doing are like not magical necessarily. They're tactical. They're skills. Some guys, like some of the stuff that the Blink Blade is doing, that's magical, right? Because he's zipping in and out, and he's going faster and slower and time warping, and he's doing these things that are kind of magical. And then, of course, like when you infuse these elements, those are magical, magical enhancements, but so little use of that in level 1. It always. Grant attack a no because it has no attack. But if it is a grant attack 3, then yes. But if it is grant attack 2, no pluses, then yes. Hey Robert, thanks for joining. I see there's a couple of you guys keep kicking. I didn't even realize that we were talking with different people here. So I did not know that granted. See, and that's another thing. Does the banner work for your goofy little like unbreakable walls and tactical movements? I know he's an ally, but how is the pole helping you? I know it's a thing. I should use it. I'm gonna have to use it because Adrian needs all the help she can get. If it means using a stick for an ally, I'm gonna have to try it when I play tomorrow. It's 8:17. I gotta call it, guys. I need to be hitting the upstairs for a bit and go watch some TV with my wife if she hasn't gone to bed already. And then I got to get ready for tomorrow. I'm off tomorrow again, and I'm going to try to do the second scenario. And with all your guys' help, hopefully I've learned enough to at least try some things and maybe give these two a better chance. I still think Adrian's going to struggle to be supportive like she needs to be. But I have kind of got my decks ready, so it should be pretty easy to do. That app really helps to deal with the monsters, saves some time there. It has got some flaws though. It doesn't let you reshuffle cards. That the FrostHaven app that I was using yesterday or the other day, when you come to the card that says reshuffle the deck, doesn't it doesn't reshuffle the deck. I don't know how to make it reshuffle the deck. So it'll flip up a bless or a ×2 or a curse or whatever it is that makes it shuffle. It won't do it. I tried to make it redo it, but it just rolls the next card. So yeah, it's probably something I don't know. I looked up. I tried to look it up on their rules, but on their how tos or whatever, but it didn't show it. So I probably just missed it. Like I've missed things on here, and you guys, thanks to all your help, I was able to get a fair bit more learned today and give my review. I still think a lot of like I said, the Blink Blade is very good. He's also very weak, and hopefully, I like him. I like him way more than the Banner Spear. I think all his cards have potential. But hey, that's what you get for taking the less challenging guy. He's less capable. But we'll get it. We'll see. I'm gonna keep getting these guys going. I want Adrian and Royce to see some real advancements. I really doubt I'll add another character. It's just too much to do, and I just need to make these guys work. At least maybe level 2. I'll get a bunch more card options. Well, several more card options, and maybe be able to start, kicking a little bit more butt. We'll see. Oh, have you used FrostHaven? So have you actually used the FrostHaven app? I don't know if I waited till the end of the round or not. I felt like it didn't reshuffle it, but maybe that was it. Maybe I was trying to shuffle. It was the modification deck that came up that I couldn't get it to reshuffle it. But maybe it was a matter of waiting till the end of the round. But I thought as soon as the card comes up, you have to reshuffle it. Because what if there's another monster? His turn comes. Does he get to keep drawing from the same deck, even though the reshuffle came up? I thought the reshuffle meant you had to do it like right away. Yeah, well, you have to press next round to go to the next round, but I'm thinking like between monsters. I thought if you get the reshuffle, it has to reshuffle for the next monster to draw from it. Anyway, okay, that's it. I didn't even realize it was so late. I've been doing this since forever, and all I did was talk. I'm good at it. Yeah, guys, have a good one. Thanks everybody for stopping by, Robert and Nindroid and all the guys who came by earlier too. I definitely appreciate the help, and maybe I'll actually, we'll see. Maybe I'll be more effective next time now that I've got the deck down a little bit more. I can apparently move banners. Would never have thought about moving banners. I don't know why it never even occurred to me to move them. I feel like inanimate objects are inanimate objects. I don't care how much motivational speak you give them. But regardless, my biggest challenge, I think, is going to be getting my Banner Spear Adrian into the battle. But we'll see. Hey, guys, take it easy, man. Till next time. Goodbye.